Good morning and welcome. Joining us again for another International Save the Vaquita Day. My name is Lauren. I'm waving to you here from Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. We're so excited for you to join us today, whether you're watching us live or whether you're going to watch this later in the future. Thank you for joining us to learn more about vaquita and the plight that they face and how there are so many people around the world working to protect these amazing animals. We're going to be exploring that all day today. But before we dive into that, I just want to recognize that here, where we are broadcasting from today, we are honored to be broadcasting from the traditional unceded territories of the Coast Salish, the Cree Kwetlam, the Hulkaminam, Tsleil-Waututh, the Chemainus, Kakite, Cayuse, Umatilla, Walla Walla, Stalo, and Musqueam nations. We get to enjoy this amazing area and broadcast to you to talk about science and research and all sorts of things that are in the ocean. So no matter where in the world that you're joining us from, we are grateful for you to be here today. We have several people who are going to be joining us to talk about current research, current observations. We've got artists with us, and we're going to be sharing all of that with you today. There we go. We got Julius in the back there, and we're going to be showing you some of the amazing art that he's working on today. But to really get us started off, I want to introduce you to Thomas Jefferson, and I'm going to pass it on over to him for some opening remarks.
Hi, Tom. Thanks very much, Lauren. I appreciate it. And welcome to all of you. Good morning to all you folks who are listening, and maybe for some of you who are listening overseas, it's a different part of the day, so whichever appropriate welcome is appropriate. So welcome to International Save the Vaquita Day 2025, where we draw attention to the world's most endangered species of marine mammal. As you know, these are very difficult times for the natural environment in general, and for the vaquita in particular. As we begin our annual Save the Vaquita Day, the world is facing unprecedented assaults on nature, and the extinction crisis is growing ever worse. But as you listen to the sometimes depressing news about the vaquita's status, don't lose hope. And at the end of the event today, I'll give you some additional words of hope, I think, from Jane Goodall. Finally, please remember that our small NGOs depend on donations to continue our work on behalf of the vaquita. VIVA Vaquita and the Porpoise Conservation Society, thank you for your participation today and your support. If at any time you would like to make a tax-deductible donation to further our work, please see the bottom of the login screen for how you can do so, or just log on to one of our websites. We very much appreciate it. And you can see the link there, I think, on the screen. So without further delay, let's dive in and hear from our colleagues about the vaquita, how the species is doing, and how we can all help to prevent it from going extinct. Thank you very much, and enjoy the program.
Thank you so much, Tom. Well, we're going to jump right into this. And our first speaker joining us today, we have Barbara Taylor. Welcome, Barb. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. Thank you.
So nice to have you here today. And I know that you have just been participating in some observations on vaquita. Is that what you're going to be sharing with us today?
Yes, I'm going to be talking about the acoustic visual survey that we just finished in September.
Nice. I'll let you jump right into it.
Okay.
I don't know if we can see your screen here yet, Barb. Do you have... Oh, I think we're getting it.
How does that look?
I can see that. Can we see that, Marcus? Yes. We can see it. Perfect.
Okay, well, it's a pleasure to be speaking with you today about the visual and acoustic vaquita research for 2025. It'll be a little back and forth today because later Gustavo Cardenas is going to be presenting about the acoustic distribution research, which has happened basically over the past year. But I'm going to be talking about what we did just last September. And I want to acknowledge that this was a huge collaborative effort across much of the world. And I'd like to thank all my co-authors, and the report that you see here will be available soon. But let me begin by talking about vaquita distribution and a lot of the science that goes behind that. So on the left, you see the sightings from big ship surveys from 1993 through 2015. And let me acquaint you with some of the figures that you see in there. There's a light gray polygon that is the Vaquita Refuge. Then there's a darker gray quadrangle that is the zero tolerance area. And I'll be talking about those quite a bit through the talk. The squiggly lines are actually depth contours from our 2008 survey. And you can see that the vaquitas their distribution is correlated with those depth contours. Basically, they're utilizing these ridges that are found in the northern Gulf of California. On the right-hand side, you see our last big survey. It was a joint acoustic and visual survey. The acoustic area, the shallow water area, is depicted with circles, and there are acoustic detectors that are deployed, and Gustavo will talk a lot more about those, but basically vaquitas are compulsive echolocators, and so they are making these very high frequency pings, and these acoustic detectors can pick them up about 200 meters away. That's quite different from the visual approach. You see the track lines of the ship here in red, and the actual sightings of vaquitas in 2015 in the red triangles. And you can see in both forms of data from vaquitas this distribution, again, along the ridges, but quite a wide distribution in 2015. I'll just touch on this because this is more Gustavo's area, but we have been doing acoustic research, and I'll just point out that by 2018, you can see that there was a distributional collapse down to a small area. And that is why the zero tolerance area is where it is because most of the detections were in that area. So by 2015, we were down to about 60 vaquitas, and the acoustic rate of decline was 34% per year. By 2018, we estimated there were fewer than 19 vaquitas, declining at 47% per year. We did research following that. In 2017, we attempted to capture vaquitas, and we used a new method to be able to do that, where we put the acoustic detectors out to help focus where we were looking to try to find the vaquitas and photograph them. And so this is a different type of survey, and that's mainly what I'll be talking about today, is this method where the acoustic detectors go out, they retrieve them regularly, they give us data to tell us where to look, and then it basically narrows the part of the haystack that we search for the needle. So we did these surveys in the fall in 2018 through 2021 within the zero tolerance area. And as you can see here, even though it's called the zero tolerance area, at the time there were lots of gill nets. At the end of our 2021 survey, we did a survey for the pangas. There were 117 inside the ZTA, 43 outside, enough net to run the length of the ZTA 5 times over. So this was not a good situation for preserving vaquitas. And the Mexican Navy took action in 2022 and deployed hundreds of concrete blocks with 3-meter hooks that were designed to entangle the nets themselves. And the Sea Shepherd Conservation Society, together with the Navy, recorded a huge drop, about 90% of gill netting within the ZTA. So this was, I think, the strongest conservation action to date taken to save vaquitas. We used those early data to compare them to see whether vaquitas were still declining at the same rate. So the gray blocks show the decline that was predicted using the acoustic data through 2018. And basically by 2021, you would have expected vaquitas to be extinct. And instead, we were observing between 5 and 15 vaquitas. So the rate of decline had slowed, and that was even before the blocks were put in. We also learned a number of really important things from the genetics, basically based on the 2 animals that were captured. And the genetic tools that we have available today allowed us to say that vaquitas diverged from South American porpoises over 3 million years ago. They've numbered in the few thousands for 20,000 years, which resulted in low genetic diversity. And essentially, looking at genetics from individuals from the 1980s through 2017, the genetic diversity hasn't changed. And they found that the vaquita genome shows that they have less danger than any other marine mammal when it comes to inbreeding because they're naturally rare species. There was also necropsies that showed from 9 individuals that they had good nutritional condition with full stomachs, no saxitoxin or domoic acid evidence, low pollutants, and that for the cases where they could determine the cause of death was entanglement in gill nets. In 2023, we switched to doing surveys in May because the weather was better and it gave us more good days to see vaquitas. And we used these 2 ships, the Sea Shepherd's Seahorse and a contracted vessel, the Sirena de la Noche. And basically, we searched with these 3 big eyes that you see on the top to find vaquitas, as well as the Sirena searching with binoculars, and then maneuvered the Sirena in to get photographs and drone videos. In 2023, it was our first year in May, we searched quite widely because at that time, calves are only a few months old. And so we weren't sure whether they would be up in the ZTA or up in shallow waters. And indeed, we found them outside the ZTA. And the government of Mexico and the Mexican Navy responded by extending the area protected by blocks to this area that they call the extension area. And so there's a larger area that was protected. In 2024, we did a very similar survey. Here you can see the green dots show the acoustic detections and the purple, the sightings. And the track lines of the Sirena and the Seahorse are the little narrow lines. And you can see the ZTA and the extension area. So we were getting about half of our detections outside of the ZTA in the extension area. What do we do with this data once we get it? Each sighting, the observers write down every detail they can into what's called an evidence dossier. At the end of the survey, the observers review all the evidence that's in the dossier, and we work with some facilitators to come up with a single consensus distribution. And we address typically 2 questions. The first one was, what is the number of unique calves seen within the area? And I hope this runs for you well. It's a little hard with video, But you'll see here that a calf that's just a few months old is pretty easy to tell from mom. You can see it's a very bad swimmer and sticking pretty close to mom. And is visibly much smaller than the adult female. There you can see the calf on the left sort of wiggling along, sticking its head out of the water. They're pretty visibly calves. This is another sighting that we had in 2024. And here you can see a larger individual. And it was fortunate that we had this drone footage, because the drone footage allowed us to actually measure the individuals. So that smaller individual turned out to not be a calf, but just by a little bit. So it was probably maybe 14 months old, which is not a calf, but still really important, because typically for mammals, the hardest year to survive is their first year. And this was clearly a nice, healthy, just over a year old vaquita. But it's really hard when you're looking through binoculars to tell those yearlings apart from adults. So that individual that you just saw is the last individual in this group of 4. And you can see that their dorsal fins look basically like adult dorsal fins. So it's really difficult, unless you have drone footage, to tell animals that are, more than 8 months old apart from adults. So this is the expert elicitation from 2023 and 2024. 2023, we saw 1 to 2 calves, but in 2024, the observers agreed that we saw 0 calves. And indeed, we probably would have called that one a calf had we not had the video, but still not good news. In the last survey that we went back to doing it in September for reasons I will discuss in a moment. And in the fall, the calves are 7 to 8 months old. And so once we got out there and we saw that we were seeing quite a few distant sightings and very brief sightings, we determined that we just couldn't address this question in the fall because those brief sightings, we just couldn't tell whether there were calves there or not. However, we will give the minimum number of calves that we did see in sightings that were close and that we got drone footage, but we won't address, we won't have a distribution to update this one. The second question that we address is, what is the total number of unique vaquitas seen within the study area, including calves? And here's the distribution for 2023, basically centered around 10. And in 2024, very heavily weighted between 6 and 8. And I'll show you why. This pair that includes an individual that we've named Frida because she has a bent fin. So like the famous Mexican artist, she's wounded, but she's a very productive individual, very important individual. And we saw Frida 3 separate times, always with that other same individual. And in fact, we didn't identify any other individuals in the entire first part of our 2024 survey. On the very last day, the very last sighting, we saw these 4 individuals. And then we had some other sightings that were brief that we couldn't identify. So that's why we said there are at least 6 and maybe 8 individuals that we saw in 2024. But there's a twist, and that is this individual here that has a very identifiable fin. It was seen in 2018, 2019, but not in 3 surveys, 2020, 2022, and 2023, but was seen again in 2024. So where had this individual been? And our concern was that we could have missed it inside the ZTA, but it could also have gone out to the historical areas where vaquitas were seen commonly and which still had plenty of gill nets. So there was a real concern. Are they staying in this sanctuary area protected by blocks or moving outside where they're unprotected? We also had a number of individuals that we saw in those early years that had very distinctive notches, including this mother on the top frames there who had a calf in 2018 and 2019 and has not been seen since. So we were interested in whether these individuals could have been returning to their previously favored habitat. So that started the research following that survey, and Gustavo will talk about the acoustic research. So there was acoustic research done right away to start addressing this question, and that was concentrated this year from May up through September. And so that's the reason why the survey time for the visual survey was moved to September, was so that we had all of those data from the acoustics to help guide this much wider effort. So the objective for the acoustic visual survey was to obtain an estimate of the number of vaquitas and the number of calves seen in the study area using expert elicitation. So basically the same as it had been before, but with the twist that because we were now, for the first time since 2015, surveying way outside the ZTA, we were interested in whether the individuals that we might see out there were the same as the ones that were in the ZTA or were different individuals. We also had an objective to obtain information on body condition of vaquitas. And basically that's the advantage we have in seeing them over listening to them, is that we can see whether they appear emaciated or have any skin conditions. So as you can imagine, this took months of preparation. The acoustic effort was funded in large part by the government of Mexico, CONAMP in particular, and the visual was funded in large part by the Sea Shepherd Conservation Society. There are lots of details for a 2-ship, 6 big eye survey with expert observers from all over Mexico, US, and Canada. And you can see what my kitchen looks like the week before leaving for the survey. We were welcomed by the Mexican Navy. They have been instrumental in vaquita conservation and also were very helpful in transporting us out to the ship with all of our equipment and providing security and retrieving any nets that we saw. As I mentioned, it's a 2-ship survey. We use the Seahorse, but also the Bob Barker, its sister ship, which had to be modified to have the survey deck with the 3 pairs of big eyes. And they both had to be modified to allow all the observers to sleep on board since we were going farther offshore. There was also, for the 3rd year in a row, a program to train local youths. They came out by Pongo when weather permitted. And it was really nice to see them seeing vaquitas, some of them for the first time. Well, as we expected, we did get poorer weather and sighting conditions in September than in May. So basically, to see and track vaquitas, you'd like very low winds. So Beaufort 0 is glass calm, Beaufort 1 is little ripples. That's what you want. And you can see that we didn't get much of that. If you look at the very bottom row, you can see the Beaufort 0, 1 per day, very good in the 2 May surveys and quite poor in the September survey. We did our best. We named a new goddess of calm weather, Tranquila, but she evidently was sleeping because we not only had substantial winds, but we had even more substantial swell. And you can imagine with a little tiny animal like vaquita, that swell has a huge effect. And so what you see on the right, G naught is the probability that you can see a vaquita that's straight in front of the ship. And you can see that by the time you go up to a swell height of 0.3 meters, you're down at less than 50%, regardless of what the Beaufort is. And by the time you get up to 0.6 meters, you're down to 20% chance of seeing vaquitas. And most of our conditions were between 0.3 and 0.6. So that made our job difficult. But you can see we covered a lot of track line. The outer area, we got only 2 good days that were the Beaufort 0 and 1. And we really did a huge amount of effort in the ZTA area. And we were successful in getting sightings. And this is the time for me to tell you that unfortunately, I am under a media embargo. So I can't give you all the results I would like to give to you. And those will be available very soon. The media embargo was set to be lifted on the 21st, which is why the date was set for today's presentations. But it got delayed and will be on the 28th. So on the 28th, there should be a lot more news. I can say we saw Frida again. We've seen her 3 years in a row, and she's quite a productive mother. So there's some really good news that we'll be able to share. The other thing that we did during this survey, since we had the 2 ships with sophisticated sonar, was to gather data on depth to see whether the ridges that vaquitas prefer are still in the same places. And you can see the 2008 contour map on the left, and you can see the new data on the right. So basically the vaquita habitat has remained the same. And one of the things that we're really looking forward to do is to understand more about how vaquita select their habitat. And we got not only depth data, but backscatter data, and we'll be able to correlate that with the acoustic data that Gustavo is going to talk about. So we had our expert elicitation, and as I mentioned, it will be available after October 28th. Both the acoustic and visual survey report and the acoustic distribution report are going to be available in early November. And we hope out of this research to submit papers to journals in early 2026. The acoustic-based abundance estimate and the current distribution map with vaquita relative density will be critical in the conservation steps that Valder will talk about later. And then we hope also to be able to do some trends and detections within the ZTA, combining acoustics and visual for at least 2023 through 2025, and maybe as far back as the 2019 when we started doing the expert elicitation. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Wow, Barb, thank you so much. I was taking notes the whole time. The picture of the 4 vaquita side by side, I don't think I've ever seen anything like that. Have you ever seen anything like that?
I have. Yeah, we used to see small groups of vaquitas, but that was so thrilling, especially after we were so depressed seeing the same pair over and over again. To see 4 different vaquitas on our last day was just really a thrill.
That's amazing. And then Frida, so did she get a name a couple of years ago, or she got named this year?
We named her this year, and Yeah, because we'd seen her so many times and we were calling her Bent Fin, which just isn't a very nice name. And so we figured she was so deserving that she should be named after a very famous Mexicana who had a huge influence on Mexican culture.
That's amazing. And to be seen with a calf. And I'm guessing maybe part of the embargo, were you able to get more drone footage of the vaquita on that study
Oh,
that
we
was
were. Some
okay.
really beautiful drone footage and including drone footage of Frida.
Oh,
So,
wow.
yeah, she's a chunky girl, could be pregnant again.
Exciting. And so is that something that we know about vaquita? Do we know if they reproduce pretty quickly? Like have one calf, kind of like kangaroos, can they have another baby ready to go? Or maybe we don't know
Oh,
that.
no, no, sadly. So the first data that we got from photographs, um, was an individual who also had a name, Anna, who was seen in 2017. And it was her calf that was the first vaquita that was captured and then released. And then she had a calf the very next year. We photographed her in 2019. So that was the first evidence that we had that they could calve every single year if they were you know, had the wherewithal to do that. They could do it.
Wow.
A lot of porpoises are 1 to 2 year calvings, and so yeah, so we're slowly getting data on how often they can have calves, but they certainly look very healthy. Every individual that we saw and measured was a nice, robust looking vaquita.
Wow. I'm just looking through some of the comments that people are asking here, and someone is asking, is there a scientific reason why they're so cute?
I don't think
Maybe
so.
there is.
I I have to say, I once had a journalist who's told me that it was how was it for me to, like, try to save an animal that was so homely? And I was like, "Are you kidding me? They're just as cute as kittens." Anyway, I don't think there's a scientific reason, though.
And I'm guessing too, so you probably can't tell us the number that you are estimating is out there. So, um, are you finding, and I don't know if this is something you can share, but you're obviously finding females that are pregnant and having calves. They're obviously getting pregnant from someone. Do we know if it's like maybe roughly even, or is it maybe we have no idea of that kind of spread of genetic information, male, female, who's out there?
No, unfortunately, and even with drone photographs, we can't tell. So it turns out Frida is the same size as the largest vaquita ever measured. So the females are a little bit bigger than males, and the males have a little bit taller dorsal fin than females. But it's
Okay.
so subtle that it's not something that we can tell in the field. So, we frequently see pairs, and we've always wondered who are they? Are they male female pairs? Are they, a mother with her older calf? Who are they? And we just sadly we don't have any way of knowing except unless we can identify the females if they have calves.
Wow. Well, Barb, thank you so much for your time and for sharing the knowledge. And it's kind of great to see that span of 2015 to now and how much research has been done. And as Tom said at the beginning, all that research is funded by people donating. I'm sure you probably get some government funding to help, possibly.
Well, the big funders are the government of Mexico and the Sea Shepherd Conservation Society. They've been just tremendous in making all that research happen through the years.
Wow.
So yeah.
Well, grateful to donors, and we'll hopefully keep that coming as we know that there's some information coming out on the 28th of October. I'm going to set an alarm for myself. Barb, I think we'll be talking to you again shortly this afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for sharing.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Well, we're going to keep it going. We've got more folks ready to share about Vaquita. And coming up next, we have Aiden from the Musquat Club, the Vaquita Project. Hi, how's it going, Aiden?
Hi, how are you?
Not too bad, thanks. Thanks for joining us. I see we also have porpoise shirts on, represent.
Yep.
We got Julius to thank for all this beautiful art.
Thank you, Julius.
Well, I want to give you as much time as I can, so I'll let you jump right into what you're going to share with us today.
Sounds good. So hi, everybody. My name is Aiden Bodhi-Olamaki. I am a member of the Muscle Club, and I've been involved with vaquita awareness for more than half my life now, since around 2010. And it's been a really exciting and oftentimes depressing adventure, sort of following this species and this cause for so long. I recently graduated law school and co-founded an animal and wildlife law nonprofit called Animal Council. So that's kind of what I've been up to recently. But today I'm gonna talk about the Muscle Club's recent vaquita conservation efforts, specifically related to our engineering projects. So yeah, really excited to share that with you guys. So yes. So here's a little bit about the Muscle Club. We were founded in 2012, and we were a fully student-founded and run organization, from the beginning. And in the years following that, we became a member of VIVA Vaquita, which is one of the groups putting on today's event. And it was really important connection that we made with VIVA Vaquita early on, and it's just been evolving since then. And we currently have more than 200 student volunteers, and have educated over 20,000 people at over 80 public awareness events in the United States and abroad. And Muscle Club, especially William Wittenbury, actually created International Save the Vaquita Day all the way back in 2013. So this is our 13th year doing the event, and it's been incredible to see the evolution of the vaquita awareness efforts, and seeing so many other groups become involved in ISTVD. So today I'm going to be talking about the Muscle Club's more recent vaquita efforts, in addition to awareness tables, social media awareness, things like that. We've also been working on various engineering projects related to vaquita conservation, and that's what I'm going to be talking about here. So back in 2018, the Muscle Club began its engineering projects in relation to the vaquita. Early on in Alabama, William and the MARPA team began working on possible boat / submersible type projects. And then that work moved to Northwestern University and continued there. Unfortunately, the pandemic kind of put a pause on things, but luckily we've fully dove back into it. And let me see. So in 2023, we partnered again with Northwestern, and that's sort of when the project was revived. And last year, the capstone team built the Maris Seidenstecker in honor of an absolute vaquita hero and legend who recently passed away, unfortunately. And so that project was dedicated to her and her incredible work. And that work has since moved to Houston. So here's a couple pictures of our earlier vaquita vessels, and I'll explain a little more, obviously, about what these are in a moment. But here's some earlier prototypes. And so the ultimate goal of the Muscle Club's engineering projects is to aid with the vaquita survey efforts that Barb was just telling us about. And specifically, we're really interested in exploring whether vaquitas might actually live outside of the ZTA, which would be really crucial information to have conservation-wise. And obviously, it would just be really great news for the species. So the CPOD devices that are used for this monitoring are really difficult to recover. So the Muscle Club's idea was to create an autonomous sea pod detection system to help conservationists locate and recover these sea pods. So what is a sea pod? It's an underwater acoustic listening device that can pick up vaquita clicks, as Barb was mentioning. And they are extremely useful in the vaquita population survey efforts. But unfortunately, they're small devices and they can get detached and lost in other ways in the ocean. And the current solutions of buoys and divers and ships with hooks are very useful, but still not perfect. So the Mussel Club wanted to sort of see what we can do to help really supplement this surveying activity. So here's some pictures of the prototype that's being built. And as you can see, it has 2 flotation devices that can keep it above water, and as well as motor devices, things like that, to help it move around. And here it is being tested in Lake Michigan near Northwestern, which is really, you can get an idea of the size of it. It's not too big, but still pretty substantial. And here's a little bit more about the sonar and autonomous navigation systems within the submersible. And this is, one of the more interesting and difficult aspects of this project. Was working on these sonar. And here's the team at Northwestern, I believe. So this is William Wittenbury on the far left, as well as his other project assistants. So what's next for this project? So Muskwa is currently working with our mission partners to deploy the Marisidensstecker into the Gulf of California to actually assist with these efforts. The sonar is capable of searching for other objects like gillnets as well, which would obviously be another really useful way to utilize this technology beyond just recovering the CPOD devices. Also, hopefully locating the actual nets that are sending the vaquita towards extinction. And if successful, we could continue to upgrade this technology and keep developing it for other uses for the vaquita and for other species. So thanks so much to our team here for helping out with this project. They've been doing incredible work and really doing a lot to expand Muskwa Club's efforts beyond just awareness and into more practical conservation. And here's some more thank yous.
Wow.
And of course, thank you to the Porpoise Conservation Society. It's been, all of these experts have been instrumental in the Muskwa Club's activities for years. And we just wanted to shout out two vaquita legends who were instrumental to vaquita conservation, and it was really sad to lose both of them, and we hope to continue carrying on their legacy through vaquita conservation efforts. And we named these submersibles after them. And one last slide. We also have 5 in-person events going today. As you can see, San Francisco, Waikiki, Point Vicente, Cabrillo, and Houston. And we're just so grateful to be able to continue doing this conservation work and to put our voices and our wide variety of interests and talents to use, and to hopefully continue working towards the vaquita's recovery.
Aiden, that's amazing update for us. Thank you so much for sharing, and super cool design for your. I was going to call it a submersible. It's not a submersible for your little boat there. Like that's such a cool design, and you guys designed that yourselves. Probably 3D printed it yourselves.
Yeah. As you can probably tell, I have extremely limited engineering knowledge myself. I was calling it a submersible. I have not been involved with any of the engineering for Muscle Club, but yeah, they've been doing incredible work with all of this technology, and it's just a privilege to be kind of in the same organization as these incredible engineers.
That's huge. And I'm curious, do you know how many people roughly are in the Muscle Club? Like how big is your base of engineers and amazing humans?
Yeah, I think on the first slide, I think we have around 200. Yeah, we have around 200 students, student volunteers. Definitely not all of them are in engineering, but yeah, we have a really strong core group of engineering students as well within Muscle Club.
Well, and I think what you're describing here, you clearly need more than just engineers. I mean, you've got people who are coming up with the ideas and also trialing them. The fact that you are able to put all of that together, I think is so exciting, especially for, we have a whole bunch of people around the world watching here today asking that question, what can I do? And your group is the epitome of be curious and do something, try something. And that your design here can actually be used to detect the gill nets. Like what an amazing multi-use thing that you guys have created.
Yeah, no, it's that's something that we've kind of talked about a lot with vaquita conservation over the years. Really just, if you're passionate about something, find how your skills and interests can align with that passion. For example, I'm really passionate about writing, so I knew that going into law and policy would be a really impactful career path for me, and towards furthering conservation. Obviously, engineers have been instrumental in the vaquita efforts, whether it's projects like this or the concrete blocks being put into the seafloor to deter fishermen, things like that. And then obviously, if you're an artist like Julius, this incredible artwork, especially for the vaquita, a species that has, especially until recently, had so few photographs in the wild. Art is even more important for species like that, just to really bring attention to the issues and to make people care about them. And that's the first step in any conservation effort, is getting people to care. So
absolutely. With the design that you have there, I was just wondering, I know with drone, the little helicopters that they use to fly over and take those images, I know a lot of research has been done about the sound made, and it's essentially negligible for marine mammals. But with the thing that you've created, I know you said it has autonomous navigation. It obviously has a motor. Is it pretty quiet? Is it how loud is this little thing?
That's a great question. I don't have a great answer for you, unfortunately. I know that the volume was a consideration during the engineering process. Not only for scaring away the vaquita, but also just for possibly making it more obvious to fishers or things like that. So there's definitely some noise considerations that were put into it. I haven't seen the device being tested. I'm not positive how loud it is, but yeah, it's definitely something that was thought about and will continue to be thought about in future development.
Well, that's amazing. And with the designs that they're working on, and I guess Musqua Club in general, this is a huge project that obviously has a lot of time left in it and opportunities to move forward with it. Do you have any other projects in the side wings, or are you going to kind of go full into this amazing design?
Yeah, so in addition to the engineering projects, Musqua is definitely continuing to focus on awareness for the vaquita specifically, but also for various environmental problems. Years ago we started a Save the Bees initiative things like that. So we're really interested in specifically connecting students to environmental causes and really getting students excited and aware that we actually can work together and change things, even if we're not grizzled veterans of the field. You can just really just jump in and find other people who are passionate and just again just start working on whatever your skills align with. And so that's what we've definitely been working on and will continue to work on, is just kind of energizing the students and really trying to create a better future.
I love that. And I'm thinking of the club, as you say, you're looking to energize students. Is it easy for anyone who wants to join the Muskwa Club to do so? Are you looking for new members? Can Canadians join?
Absolutely. Yes, we are international and fully open to membership. We're very interested in new members. You can find us at muskwaclub.org, MUSKWA club.org. And you can find out more information about us. And again, we're really excited about new members and new ideas, and we want to continue growing and collaborating as much as possible.
With the work that you're doing, how is a lot of that funded? Are you looking for folks to be able to donate to you? Is that a thing that people can do, or are you looking for partnerships to be able to build out these designs even more?
Both, honestly. We are fully funded by donations. Things like the T-shirt campaign that we do every year. All that funding goes to our Vaquita efforts. But we're fully donation based, and also very interested in working with other programs such as universities and other groups that have been really helpful in helping fund this engineering project specifically. But we're again really grateful for any private donations as well.
Absolutely. Well, we'll make sure people know about your club, because the work that you're doing is amazing.
Thank you.
Is there anything else you want to share or leave us with about upcoming projects, or just your heartfelt feelings about where we're going with protecting Vaquita?
I definitely I will be returning to the expert panel in a couple hours, so I'm happy to continue talking and answering questions about Vaquita conservation, Muskwa Club. As I mentioned, I just graduated from law school, so law and policy is more my forte. But happy to continue the conversation later, and really just so excited to see this event every year continuing to grow, and just the incredible show that the Porpoise Conservation Society puts on is just very great to be a part of it.
Well, it's amazing. Well, thank you so much for your time, Aiden. And on behalf of the whole team that you obviously work with, we're really grateful for all of your efforts and everything that you're doing.
Thank you so much.
We'll talk to you soon. Well, I think that's so exciting to see. As Aiden was saying, we have people from all over the world, different abilities, and engineers coming up with designs that are clearly workable in those swells that Barb was talking about earlier. So keep your eyes peeled. If you have money burning a hole in your pocket and you want to help some conservation, Muskwa Club, VIVA Vaquita, we've got all sorts of places that can help you put that money to good use and conservation efforts. We're going to keep this going, and I'm going to be passing it on to our next presenter, who is the amazing Dr. Julius, right behind me. He's being incredibly artistic. Hi, Julius.
Hey, everybody. Thanks, Lauren, for that introduction. It's always such a great pleasure to be part of such amazing groups like this one, we're looking to protect all sorts of beautiful life forms on Earth. And even when things look dire in many cases, the important thing is not to give up, because as Barbara Taylor told us about before in that really great initial talk, the Vaquita have an inherently great resilience. They've always been naturally rare, and so there's good reason for us not to give up in the face of low population numbers. And for many other species, maybe this low population would represent a greater threat. But as we've been seeing, that vaquitas continue to be reproducing. And to me, that gives a lot of hope. I tend to be a stubborn optimist. These days, you kind of have to be to keep motivated, but there's also good reason for it. And so I'm just really happy to be a part of these kinds of programs in any capacity. And as Lauren and others and Aiden were saying, and thanks very much, Aiden, for all your wonderful efforts. Oh, I'm so impressed and so proud to see youth being involved in these absolutely crucially important endeavors. This is really wonderful and very inspiring, because you guys are actually taking the world to a better place, and this is not a small thing. So I just love to be involved in these kind of things. And artwork is, in fact, an important part of spreading the message of any sorts of messages to help us to, be inspired to care for this beautiful biosphere we have. It's the only biosphere we know of in the cosmos at the moment. And maybe there are others, but right now, this is all that we know. We need to take care of it. And so thank you so much for everybody for being a part of this. And so my role in this here, as in addition to just kind of rambling excitedly about biology, is to also be an artist, to do live artwork during this program. And I'll be continuing this throughout. This is only sort of like the first bit that as people are talking, I'm going to be working in the background. And what I've got going here actually is, it's a vaquita, surprise, surprise. What I'm working on, we just had a wonderful broadcast last night as well with Marcus and Christine here for our Canvas and Currents series. And that was on great hammerhead sharks. Then I was doing a colored pencil on blue paper sort of thing. Today, I am using what is called scratchboard. And so what it is it's about it's a narrow, thin board of wood. And then it's coated with this bright white kaolinite clay. And then it's topped by this sort of black India ink. And the idea then is to remove that ink on the surface to reveal the clay underneath. And so it's kind of like working with white colored pencils or white pencils on a black paper. But the neat thing is that because the way that I remove it is using a sharp instrument, in this case, I'm just using an X-Acto knife, you can make extremely narrow lines. I'm just going to hold it a little closer to the camera. You can see that really, really narrow lines. And that allows me to put a lot of detail into it. Of course, you have to be really careful because if you scratch it, there's no erasing it. I mean, I could add ink on top of it to darken it. That's an option, but I'm just trying to be really, really careful. What I'm doing with this one right now actually is going to probably be a little bit more expressionist than most of the artwork that I've been doing of Vaquita on International Save the Vaquita Day in previous incarnations of this broadcast. I am creating one where, the Vaquita is sort of like a very realistic image of this particular porpoise. But the background, like, it's a lot of black right now. What I'm going to do is, as I show you, as I'll be doing it here, is create a series of kind of tortuous lines, eddies, and so on. I'm going to make use of this really interesting sort of lines of bright lines we can put on the dark paper board. And part of it, the reason for that is because, so there's a few different things happening here. First of all, in terms of composition, as an artist, I'm thinking about how to incorporate composition to communicate certain ideas. The Vaquita is facing upward. It's heading upward, and so it's kind of a little bit embodying hope. I'm really hoping that their population will recover. I'm hoping that they will rise back into more stable, safer populations. And it's traveling through sort of a dark, unknown water. And sort of conceptually, we don't know, of course, what the future is. We have hope. We are also very cognizant of the danger that they're in. We don't know what their future is, but we're doing all that we can to help them to get to a better place. And the water in the background is going to be filled with sort of these curlicue eddies and so on. It's going to be sort of visibly turbulent. And that also reflects the fact that, yes, they are in a very sort of turbulent time right now as well, conceptually. And we don't quite know their future, but we're doing everything to help them navigate toward a safer future. And some of these turbulent patterns that I'm going to be showing in a short little time here also represent their need to like physically escape from being captured by wet nets in the water, right? And so it's kind of a little bit of a multiple messages that I'm trying to convey with this. And I'll show you how I'm doing this. And Marcus, I'm not sure if it's possible to actually zoom closer with the camera. I think maybe in some cases it might be good if it's possible, or I'll raise it up if that helps to be able to show some of the scale of these really, really narrow lines. I love working with Scratchboard. It's risky because, yes, as I said, you have to be really careful not to damage it while you're doing it. But the kind of detail you can get with it is really, truly astounding. And so actually, I'll just kind of raise this up just to show. Oh, there we go. Yeah, there we go. Good. So yeah, it's the. So I'm trying to think in reverse how to raise it. It's hard to get even just. It also got a little bit of kind of a shine to it. That clay underneath has a certain kind of a shine. And as here we go. Oh, I'm trying to think in reverse. There we go. Oh my goodness. I'm trying to move it in ways that are reversed to what. Oh, there we go. Almost.
This is me teaching. I'm doing the same thing, moving it all over. If
you can switch back to that previous camera, Marcus, that was like that one. I want to show you some of these fine lines. Here we go.
Oh.
So Scratchboard is neat. If you look online, you find some absolutely astounding work by Scratchboard artists. And this is actually extraordinarily amateur. One of my friends who's a really well-known wildlife artist by the name of John N. Agnew has done some spectacular Scratchboard artwork featuring all kinds of animals, a lot of reptiles such as turtles and tortoises and crocodilians, and absolutely spectacular work. I recommend that you look up some of the work of some of these artists. It'll blow you away, the kind of detail you can get in these. But you can see as I'm doing this, I have to be super careful not to scratch too hard and blow it away every once in a while because you get a little bit of that black ink powder that comes off and you want to reveal the stuff underneath. But I can't push too hard because the harder I push, the more ink is removed per stroke. I have to be super careful not to do that. So I'm trying to think of how much to remove at any given time while also trying to generate a smooth gradient of tones here. It's not the easiest medium to work with, but it's one of those things where if you put effort into it or you kind of settle into a rhythm, you kind of you get into this kind of a groove. Sorry for the pun in this case, because it really is all about making grooves. And then you kind of have a feel for how much pressure to add per stroke to generate what you want. And you can probably hear the scratching happening. But it's a very rewarding kind of artwork as well. And vaquita are an interesting being to illustrate because not only they have a very particular shape, but the color patterns are also distinctive. The vaquita is the name refers to like a little cow, basically. They have this really cute, almost like Jersey cow type of a look to their face, and they have this adorable dark eye spot. These are all features that are very characteristic of the species. Also, what I think is really beautiful about them, and I'm a big shark fan. Their dorsal fin is, for porpoises, that's a very tall dorsal fin. And, it's actually one of the most shark-like dorsal fins of any cetacean that I know of. Most cetaceans are whales and dolphins, especially those dolphins that have tall dorsal fins. They're usually kind of hooked or what we call falcate. For vaquita, it is also. But it's less hooked than it is for most other cetaceans that we typically see. And it is actually very shark-like looking. It's very tall. So if you look at porpoises in general, the few species that are alive today, there aren't many, you have a huge diversity in their form, especially in terms of how their dorsal fin looks, the fin on the back. You have everything from the finless porpoises, which do not have a dorsal fin, but might have little short ridges on their back or not, to some low dorsal fins, some really weird, giant, wide dorsal fins of which species is that? The one with the spectacled porpoise, I believe it is. Huge dorsal, but wide, spatulate. And then we have the vaquita, which has this beautiful little triangular dorsal fin. And so this just shows again how much diversity we have within groups of animals that are otherwise closely related, and how important it is for us to preserve genetic diversity. And that's an interesting thing in vaquita, because naturally the genetic diversity within the species is already low. But we want to, of course, preserve as many individuals, protect as many individuals as possible, because, yeah, we still do want to maximize the diversity that they have to work with. They at least don't have as many genetic diseases as some other species that might reach low population sizes, as Barb Taylor was saying, because they have already been rare, and therefore have, those kinds of diseases have effectively been sort of removed from the population mostly. But we want to maximize whatever is available. So hopefully, my hope is that they will start or continue to reproduce, and that they will escape the nets that are there, and that the nets are successfully removed by those wonderful people who are working to, like, on site to protect these amazing beings from death and entanglement in these nets. And so here, what I'm going to do now, I'm going to switch. I've been working on the vaquita, and we'll come back to this after my segment is over as well, and I'll show you continued work on it. But in the meantime, what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch and start to show you some of how I'm doing a little bit of the background to generate these unusual, interesting patterns that I've been planning to introduce. And so here we go. I'm going to actually just switch to a couple of things. So normally, right, in the background, we don't really see a lot of details in open water, but I'm going to actually deliberately add a few. And so again, this is about the path that the vaquita is taking in the ocean, and forward through to the future. And yes, we don't know what it is, but we want to help it navigate toward a safe and continuous future, so that it has a clear path to travel, figuratively and very, very literally too, a clear and safe path away from nets. And so this is basically what I'm getting at here. Is I'm going to, it's kind of there's also another aspect to this. There's going to be a lot of like, as I mentioned, the turbulence of the water, eddies, and sort of tangled directions of water moving. They also illustrate, reflects kind of the evolution of life on Earth, and how vaquitas have arrived where they are right now, having evolved from their ancestors, other sort of more basal porpoises. It's kind of like the tree of life, so to speak, as we talk about in biology, sort of this phylogenetic tree of life, how organisms have radiated evolutionarily, branched out, and diversity on Earth has increased. And it's kind of this a very tangled web. If you were to plot the passage of organisms and their genetic material over time, it's generally this very interesting, very tangled web. I'm a microbiologist by training, and so we deal with some really interesting genetic history of microorganisms, bacteria. They actually are able to swap genes between species, and species that are not even closely related to each other. So the tree of life for some life forms, such as bacteria, is extraordinarily complex, because it kind of reconnects in different ways over time, depending on the genes you look at. Mostly, though, for our types of life forms, these multicellular animals that we're dealing with, of which vaquita is one, the path, the genetic path that we can trace them to have taken evolutionarily is relatively simpler. It's a little bit less tangled, but it still is a very branched, interesting structure, if we were to conceptualize it basically visually. And I'm kind of showing something that could be interpreted to be a little bit of that as well. And right now, the vaquita is in one particular place, and over time, and I really, really hope so, that they will survive, they will continue to evolve. Their gene frequencies will change. They will undergo mutations. There will be new genes that are different from the current ones that will evolve, that will sort of appear. And over time, the vaquita will start to look different over millions and millions of years. And I just really hope they have that chance to. And so their path into the future, if it, and very hopefully it continues, will be an unpredictable one from this point. We don't know what they will evolve into in the future. But yeah, that's the point. We want to give them the chance to be able to do that. And really, like, what motivates me as a biologist, an artist, somebody who just loves the biosphere, is doing exactly what we're doing in this program. This is the epitome of it. Reaching out to people all over the world to try to inspire an appreciation for life on Earth, to show all of us how absolutely beautiful and magical is this incredible complex interplay of chemistry on this rock floating in space. I mean, when you step back and think about that, how amazing is that? That here we are. I'm basically a collection of carbon, oxygen, hydrogen, and many other elements in various combinations. And I, like, not only are my cells, everything in them are undergoing this really complex sort of chemical dance, but there are emergent properties of me being able to think and communicate as this giant bag of chemistry. And yet this is what's happening on Earth, this incredible complex waltz of chemistry. It is unique as far as we know. And every single species is different from all the others. We each have something to provide. And we interconnect with each other. We interact. And on Earth, we have these beautiful ecosystems that are composed of communities of many different kinds of animals, plants, microorganisms, and so on. And they have important roles to fulfill within these ecosystems. We need to protect not just individual species, but their habitats as well, and the whole collection of organisms that live in any given place. Because the complexity of these ecosystems and these biological communities is crucial for their stability and their long-term survival and for their proper function. And, you know, we love to observe and marvel at the beauty of these ecosystems, but it's much more than that as well. We live on Earth and nowhere else. We absolutely require these ecosystems to be intact, these life forms to be functioning and playing the roles that they play, because our food and our habitat, where we live, absolutely depends on the health of these complex biological communities and the ecosystems that they create. So we're looking here specifically at protecting the vaquita because it is in a very, very dire, urgent state to require our stepping in to protect it from becoming entangled in and you know, dying in these nets. But we also have a much larger, broader focus of protecting its entire habitat, which will of course protect other species there as well. The totuaba, the fish that is being illegally poached, that is, you know, for which the nets are being set, is also critically endangered. You know, our work removing the work of the Mexican Navy and others, removing those nets, also helps other species in the area. It's, you know, the entanglement in nets is such a massive problem. For many species, we have this problem of bycatch. And so I tend to also think about when I'm buying food, I have to think about what my decisions do, how they impact the biosphere. And I do make an effort to try to avoid foods that I know are procured in such a way that could be harmful for many different life forms. So in general, I try to avoid seafood that is acquired using nets, because I know that laying nets in various ways results in many animals being entangled in it that are also not targeted by the fishery. And I don't feel good about, you know, spending money supporting effectively such practice. I would rather very deliberately support methods of food procurement that do not, or at least minimize the impact, the negative impact of on life on Earth. And as I said yesterday in the program as well, you know, I do understand, and we need to underscore the fact that not all of us are able to put the same amount of effort into, you know, avoiding certain foods or you know, investing our efforts into various forms of protections. But degrees matter, and those of us who can do more, I feel it feels good to do more. I think the onus is on us to try to do whatever we can, but also not to judge people who are actually unable to. We want to work together as a community. We want to foster care and concern and love for this biosphere. We don't want to antagonize each other. And we want to also understand that we are all very different in our abilities. But I think what's also amazing is that most of us can do often more than we realize. And this is part of what this program is about. It's about communicating all the different ways that we can help out. A lot of the time we don't do more because we don't know what to do. And so people like Aiden, for example, are doing these wonderful projects with the Musco Club that are entraining the efforts of people from around the world. That's one other way that you can be involved. There's so many different subtle things that you can do, just spreading the word to your family and friends about this tiny porpoise that is, suffering from being entangled in nets. Just spreading that information alone is already helping. And if we're really thinking about it and invest effort into finding out, there are ways we can do even more additional things. So anyway, it inspires me to see people making these efforts and finding out ways to do more. I like to make choices to avoid harmful ways of getting food, for example, not just because I want to reduce my own personal impact, negative impact on the biosphere, but I also want to set an example and, to show anybody who might say, oh, well, it's too hard to make any difference. And you know what? I want my life to be an example of, hey, look, I can do this, and it's not too hard. It's actually possible, And yes, I can't necessarily afford as much as some others can, and there are many people who can, afford less than I can. But you know what? All of our efforts count, and if we can, I say let's just make an effort as much as we can. And really, it feels good to know that something that you've done can make a difference. I've worked in the past volunteering to help orphaned seals here on the West Coast to get another chance at life, and it was amazing just being able to work to help them to grow up and get a chance and be released. That just gave me such like an infusion of energy and a feeling of well-being just to be able to do that. I would recommend that if you have a chance, whether it's with the vaquita or other life forms, if you have a chance to volunteer at rescue centers for wildlife, for example, I cannot overstate how wonderful a feeling that can produce to be able to do anything at all. And for me, it was even just like hosing down the grounds to clean up after the animals. All of that, you're
washing dishes.
Component.
Lots of washing dishes.
Lots of washing dishes. Yes.
Well, those guys poop a lot. That's a necessary job.
Yes, seal poop, exactly. But you know what? It's necessary, and it feels good to be able to know that I'm a part of this. Being a part of efforts like this, it just feels amazing. And of course, so this is exactly what I'm talking about. Being here, doing this, is doing some artwork right now, feels really good. You know what? The other thing that you can do, if you're following along and doing your own artwork of vaquita, or any other animals or plants or ecosystems, I've always suggested to people that something you can do that is fun and potentially impactful is, well, let's not just stand by. Let's contact those people who are involved in making legislation to help protect these ecosystems. And nowadays, I know it can be very, very difficult, but we need to keep pushing lawmakers, government representatives to act responsibly. And then we create these kinds of artworks and we send letters to them telling them how important we feel it is to protect these animals and plants and ecosystems. Why not send along some of the drawings that you've done? I suspect that it is a lot more impactful and memorable to people to receive letters that are illustrated with some of these beautiful beings And I think it'll be more memorable, and maybe that's going to make a difference for them to think, okay, all right, I remember I'm supposed to do this, for example, and speak up for this.
Well, and exactly as you say there, Julius, Barb showed a picture of some art that had been done down off the Sea of Cortez there, and it was really cool to see the beautiful goddess of the sea, the tranquility that she was talking about. And I think we, a couple of years ago, had exactly that conversation of send your art to these policymakers, lawmakers, get it out there. And just for anyone listening, if, again, I'm a teacher, so sometimes I clarify, like, the thing that we don't often say is the reason that we ask people to send letters, to communicate to those lawmakers, is they represent you. They represent the things that you care about. And as you've heard already today, we all have different things that we care about. But when they see those letters coming in, when they hear people asking, what are we doing about saving the habitat, saving animals that need it, because exactly as Julia said, we're all connected. When they hear that and see that coming in letters, it's like, oh, people actually care about this. And so sometimes those letter writing campaigns do make a difference. And building on something you said earlier, Julius, that, being a part of something, making that small difference, it doesn't matter what your contribution might be. Exactly as Julius just said, washing dishes, helping to take care of those seals that get released, all of that adds up. So even if you feel like you don't have something to add, you absolutely do. You have the ability to be a cog in this amazing machine of trying to make our world stay as livable as possible.
And it's interesting because, I do try to interact with in Canada, we have our members of parliament and members of the legislative assembly, depending on the level of government. And it's not just a matter of voting is one of your most powerful things you can do. Look at the platforms of the people who are running for various levels of government and try to find the ones whose platform most lines up with effective efforts to protect some of these beautiful ecosystems. Your vote is super important, extremely important. But in addition to that, you can also then contact your representatives directly and arrange for meetings with them to chat. And I've done that in the past. And when we have, especially in groups, when we organize to meet with a representative, let's say as a conservation advocacy group, we've met with, like, who's now actually the premier of BC, who was my MLA at the time. And he said that keep doing what you're doing. Like, this is how we know what you want. Keep sending letters, keep arranging these meetings, keep protesting. These are the things that tell us as politicians running for office what our populace wants. So this is why it's so crucial that we live in democracies and we got to protect them. That we can speak up and be heard, and we need to keep doing that. And I know that in many parts of the world right now, that's really difficult, and people have a lot of erosion of hope, but there is good reason to continue. This is a time when we need to be even more vocal, and we can be, and it is definitely worth it. So I highly encourage you to keep doing it and double down your efforts to do so. It's going to pay off. Oh, I think so.
Yeah. When we talked earlier, before we kind of started the stream, of exactly as you said, Julius, that there's a lot going on in the world and it's overwhelming to kind of decide what do you choose to take on as your fight. And we all know that no one can do everything, but as we've seen from the Musqua Club, pick a thing and do it and be really good at it. It doesn't have to be everything. It's something, and something's better than nothing.
Absolutely. Our efforts add together. And it's that resultant overall, group effort that's going to make even more of a difference. Yeah. And if we all just think of, I'm going to do something regardless of whether others do it, and if everybody thought that way, the world would change. Just don't wait for others to do it. Just do it. Just reach out. Do what you can think of that would help, even though you don't know if others are doing it. Because I guarantee you, if everybody's thinking that way, it's going to get so much done.
It's kind of cool to think of the people. I'll go back to Musqua Club again, because it's a bunch of students who got together, and they're up to 200 people, of exactly that, of none of us know where to start. I mean, I always hear people say, fake it till you make it. It's true.
Yep.
Everyone's doing the best they possibly can for the most part. And yeah, if you see that there's a need for an organization in your community, if you see something that needs to be done, maybe it's not connected to Vaquita, but stuff going into the waterway, that could be your thing. And other people, you're going to hear from them that say, I never noticed that was a problem. I mean, I know for here, I think it's across Canada with the yellow fish that get painted on the storm drains. And it's often a project that students do where they'll go out and paint these fish on the storm drains. And the idea is that they just remind you that whatever goes down the drain goes into these waterways. And it's a great craft for the kids. It's a beautiful thing on the streets, but it does have the impact of just reminding us in those days when you get busy and you forget that the rest of the world exists, that, oh yeah, maybe I shouldn't pour this down there. I should get rid of this in a different way. Those little artistic reminders are sometimes enough to get us out of our funk of work, sleep, work.
Absolutely, I agree. That's another good example of using artwork to send messages that are very important. People remember things that are very visual often. We tend to be impressed by visual presentation. And, those of us who, and you know what, anybody can do this. It doesn't have to be, a Da Vinci to be impactful. Your artwork can be absolutely beautiful and wonderful, regardless of what the experience you have. And it's about the message. And if we can just find creative ways to send that, different ways than we have in the past, it's going to be remembered and it's going to make an impact. So keep it up. Be inspired. Use your inspiration to generate new stuff.
Speaking of inspiration, one thing I've noticed from the chats and the channel here is that a lot of people have a little Vaquita emoji. I'm seeing someone asking, can we get that? I don't know where it's coming from. There's a sea otter, but there's a Vaquita emoji that some people are using. It's pretty darn cute. So good job, emoji world.
Nice.
We definitely have one. We have one on our Discord channel for all the people on the marine mammal rescue community. There's a bunch of Vaquita emotes that Casey, who is going to join us later,
there it is,
has created. Yeah.
Thank you, the book snail.
We have one.
By the way, one other thing, speaking of artwork, I've got a Vaquita themed coloring sheet that I've made that's freely available that I'm going to make available for the program as well. If you guys, if anybody wishes to color in a sort of coloring sheet of Vaquita, I've got that as well. So I'd be happy to make that available as well. Just one more fun thing to do with artwork.
Well, there was a question that came up about Vaquita, but not current Vaquita, but old Vaquita. And I wasn't sure if, Julius, this might be something in your wheelhouse. There was a question about if there are any fossils of Vaquita, if they are in the fossil record. And I know Barb was talking earlier about how the population has been roughly a few thousand for the past 20,000 years, that they've come from another type of porpoise. But have you ever come across any sort of fossilized porpoises?
This is not something this is not something that I'm actually as familiar with. I've dealt with many different fossil cetaceans from great times in the great distances temporally in the past in my artwork, but it's mostly been it's not been porpoises specifically. And I think that somebody like Barb Taylor and many others who are involved in the in this presentation today would be much better able to answer that.
I'll ask them later.
Yes. It's a good question, though. And as a paleo artist, I am very intrigued by the fossil evidence for the evolutionary history of many different animals and plants and microorganisms and such. So it's a really neat question to be able to answer.
I'm looking here. There's a lot of folks interested in that coloring sheet. So definitely something that we will make sure is shared out.
Marcus, what's the best way for me to send it here to you, or what would be it? Because I can pull it right up.
It's going to be really hard to update the website as we're on air.
Okay. It will come afterwards, folks.
We're going to share it on all our social. It's probably...
That's it. Good.
I'm going to try and add it to vaquita.day.
Okay, sounds good. Otherwise...
eventually. It's going to take us a while.
Yeah, there you go. You can also find it in the meantime, if you look up my Facebook page, I've got in my photos. I've got an album of natural history coloring sheets. All of those ones are free to download and color, not for profit, just for, enjoying learning about wildlife and so on. And there is a vaquita in there as well. So that's the easiest way you can find it. Otherwise, yes, I'll make it available and we'll figure out a way to get people to see it. So.
And even if you're an adult and want to use a coloring sheet, you can post it anywhere. Ooh, we could art mob people, color the coloring sheet, stick it up everywhere, and everyone's going to say, what is happening? And then we'll just art mob.
Excellent.
Art mob. Yeah.
All for it. Yeah, so here we go. As you see, I've been adding these sort of curlicues and eddies and so on, the turbulence in the water. It also kind of shows a little bit about, I'm trying to kind of show how the shape of vaquitas, they're really amazing little, like torpedo-shaped cetaceans. Their shape is beautifully evolved for passing through the water at decent speed to catch the various food that they eat. And they're hydrodynamically efficiently shaped, that those fins provide stability for them so that they can move through the water and steer effectively. Their shape overall is very much like a torpedo for good reasons. It's in a hydrodynamically efficient shape to minimize the amount of turbulence that they create as they move through the water, which is important because minimizing turbulence means that you expend less energy to what's called drag, or the water holding you back. And so they have evolved over millions of years in such a way that the end result is this beautifully shaped animal that can slide through the water with ease. And this is also why I love sharks a lot. Their shape is just, again, beautifully hydrodynamically efficient in many species. So one of the really neat things to see how evolution shapes life on Earth to create these diversity of forms that are all evolved to function well in the habitats that they exist in and the niches they fill.
I like there's at least a few things that are efficient, unlike me. So everybody watching was wondering, man, why are they not switching the camera back to Julius? That is me, and I apologize. I totally can do it. I'm just so busy coordinating other things in the background.
We like to see other things than just me is the thing. So this is good to have diversity in views.
I want to give a quick shout out to all the people watching us on TikTok for the first time. We have something like 13,000 likes there. This is only our second broadcast ever on TikTok for the marine mammal rescue community. So many people watching all over the planet. We're streaming to, I think, 8 channels today.
Wow. Hello, everyone from everywhere. That's exciting. We see you're getting nice feedback. The setup of cameras and switching is really nice.
Okay. See, it's not as bad.
The book snail.
I appreciate it.
No, this is amazing. I had mentioned to Julius I'd never heard of a scratch board before. It sounds like some people had, and again, just various forms of art. I feel like the kinds of art that you find around are amazing too, like the options available. There's people who will do art just on beaches, and they'll make outlines of whales with the garbage that is washed ashore to make a statement. And their art is everywhere, right, Julius?
Absolutely. And sometimes it's the people themselves. I remember for the recent No King's Day protest, there was it San Francisco, or San Diego? It was one of the California beaches that they spelled out the logo on the sand using a crowd of people. It's just pretty amazing to see that. We can do all kinds of artwork and message delivery, using ourselves or using various forms of medium, and digital, traditional forms, all kinds. I love working with traditional artwork techniques, different kinds of media, and the sky's the limit. I mean, we have these brains that can be creative. Let's use them.
Okay, actually, so little change to our program. We wanted to bring on Casey later in the program, but surprise, she's already here. So I'm gonna, which button? Oh my God, there's so many buttons. Let's go to Lauren's camera first, and then bring on Casey.
Welcome, Casey.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm great. I'm just taking it all in, really enjoying the symposium. Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. And I hear that you are an artist as well.
I am. Yeah. I did a small Save the Vaquita event last year, and I was hoping to go bigger this year. I stream on Twitch, and I've actually had over 30 streamers all over Twitch from different categories sign up to be a part of what I'm calling Save the Vaquita event week. It's November 2nd through 8th. So I'm really excited about that. But I'm an artist as well. I used to be a teacher, and now I do freelance work.
It's funny how teachers kind of commingle in these kind of events, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's almost like we like educating the public.
Something about it, right?
Yeah, can't stay away.
So what can you share with us today about what you're working on?
Yeah, I mean, I've got quite a few things. I guess the biggest one is the Save the Vaquita event week. I've got a little card here. I was at TwitchCon last weekend promoting this. I walked around with a giant vaquita porpoise, life-size vaquita porpoise. I would show it to you, but it's in the car. I didn't even think about
stream. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, there we go. And here on the back, if anybody wants a QR code, I passed these out all weekend, basically at TwitchCon. And then I'm actually at Lightbox Expo. It's an art expo here in Pasadena this weekend. So I've been passing them out here, meeting other artists, meeting some conservation artists, just trying to spread the word. I've got a happy Save the Vaquita Day shirt that I made. And if you go to this QR code, if anybody wants to, you can pick up one of those shirts. On the back, it has the porpoise.org logo and hashtag Save the Vaquita. I've also been passing out these stickers, which is the same design. So I'm really trying to make it a much bigger event this year. I've applied to be on the front page of Twitch for my day of streaming for the event on November 3rd. So cross your fingers. It's my first time doing that, but hopefully they say yes. I actually just got partnered on Twitch because of the vaquita. My community kind of pushed me to partner because you have to be a partner to get on the front page, basically. So I'm trying to do my part to, just raise awareness and talk to people about this animal. So,
wow. Well, great job. And I mean, like we've been talking about, we're streaming this on so many different channels. Being able to use all those channels to our own evil needs is fantastic. And I'm on board with it.
Yeah, I mean, no, I feel like I like to say if everybody does a little, it adds up to a lot, right? And so everybody can do something. As a former elementary school art teacher, I always tell people, if you want to get people excited about an animal, tell a kid, like if you tell a kid, they're going to tell literally everybody they know. And sometimes conservation movements happen even from, even if you have kids at home, like let them know. They might let their teachers or librarians know, get school programs started. I mean, heck, that's the Spix's Macaw, right? Like had a huge kid conservation movement behind it. So it's a cute animal. It's hard to look at a vaquita and not just be like, wow, I really want to protect that creature. And then I always tell people too, like when you have a flagship species like the vaquita, it protects everything. When we protect this animal, it protects everything in that ecosystem. So you're not just helping the vaquita, you're helping the mobula rays and the turtles and other cetaceans that live in the Gulf of California. So yeah.
Absolutely. And I feel like the Spix's Macaw just had some positive news. That was the real bird, that they've just been released into their natural habitat for the first time.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's so cool.
Fantastic.
So cool. Yeah. So I think, it's an animal that everybody I've talked to over the past week here in California has been like, oh my gosh, I've never heard of the vaquita. How can I help? So many people have gotten excited about learning more and wanting to tell others. And so I just think, anybody can tell somebody. Anyone has the power to tell a friend or a family member or coworker, show them a picture.
Yeah.
So
Pixar, any movie companies, let's make movies of the adorable vaquitas, please.
Right.
We're asking for your help.
Casey, while we still have you, can you tell us a little bit more about your Save the Vaquita event week and what you've got planned there? How many people are and what is that going to look like?
Yeah. So, originally I was just hoping to have like a streamer a day, just have 7 days of streams where there's like one stream a day I could spotlight. But I've had, like I said, about 30, maybe more at this point, streamers sign up to be a part of it. If you go to this QR code, I can get this to you guys too, but it's Save the Vaquitas, like plural, .card.co. That's card with 2 R's. And you'll find more info. I've actually got a link to this live seminar on this page. So it's got FAQs, it's got resources for streamers, it's got the event schedule. We have science streamers, we've got some marine biologists, we've got artists, we've got gamers, and even a food streamer who's doing fajitas for vaquitas and making squid fajitas like it's a favorite food of the vaquita. So I mean, people are on Twitch are excited about helping this animal, and I'm excited about getting it in front of a broader audience. So yeah, it's going to be going on November 2nd through the 8th. I mean, we've got people stacked. It's like every 2 to 4 hours there's another stream in the event. Yeah, you can just go to this page to find that.
The QR code that we have in the top left corner and have had there since your segment started, that leads to the same address. So anyone who wants to check out that address, use your last few seconds now to scan that QR code and bookmark that address. It sounds like it's going to be a really exciting week.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it. I'm hoping to make some new art, and we're raising a bunch of money for Porpoise.org and various boots on the ground organizations as well. So hopefully it's just going to be a big event. Yeah, I'm excited. Thanks for having me on to talk about it.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for organizing that, for taking that effort, and like you say, doing your part. Like that is amazing, and we really appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. Happy to help. Let me know if I can do anything else.
We absolutely will.
All right.
Thank you so much, Casey.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'll be listening.
Oh, amazing. So we are going to keep on going. We have Julia still doing art behind me, but we are now being joined by Valder. Did I say your name correctly? Valder, can you hear me at all? Not sure. Oh,
Hi, Lauren.
you.
Yeah,
Hi.
I can hear you now.
Welcome. How are you doing?
Thank you. How are you?
I'm very good. Thank you so much. And you're joining
Incredible program, Lauren.
Appreciate it. Well, it's a whole team effort here. There's a lot of folks behind the scenes making this happen. I hear you're here to join us to share the current status of the NMMF efforts.
No, I'm from the government of Mexico.
Sorry, I looked at the wrong one. You're from the Mexican government. Hi, What can you tell us about Vaquita? Where's things at right now for your part of things?
Well, a lot of things. If I may, I wanted to share a presentation. I think it is. There are a lot of things to talk about, as you know, but I prepared this presentation. I hope it's not too bored or institutional, but I wanted to share some information with you now because I think it's important. If you don't mind, I'm going to read a little bit so I don't miss anything in the translation. But first of all, the institutional part, which is also important, on behalf of the Ministry of the Environment of Mexico's government and the Vice Ministry of Biodiversity and Environmental Restoration, which is actually a new area in the Ministry of Environment created this year. The Vice Minister Marina Robles, I would like to thank Thomas Jefferson, Marcus, Lauren, all the colleagues who organized this important meeting, as well as Lorenzo Rojas, who was the person that brought us together. And I think he couldn't be here, but I sent him a great greeting. So first of all, to congratulate this effort, I have to say that listening to the participation and the dynamic that excited in today's program, I'm very happy that we share at the same time like a vision of critical urgency due to the situation faced by the vaquita, but also a vision of passion, hope, creativity in all areas, which are three things that we think that the vaquita needs to survive and to have a hopeful path. So it was really great to hear you all, guys. If I may, I would like to start giving a really brief background on the situation, the context of the Upper Gulf of California. I know that maybe there isn't much need to do this, taking into account that you are all people that are interested in this subject and have a lot of info and have been following this topic for a lot of years. But if I may, I would just like to give a brief introductory context first. So first of all, as you know, one of the things that we always remind is that the vaquita porpoise, of course, the world's smallest cetacean and endemic to Mexico, but it's endemic for a very small area in the Upper Gulf of California, as you know, And as Barbara commented before, genetic links have been found with a porpoise species dating back million years ago, but it has had low genetic diversity resulting from an effective population size of around 5,000 individuals over a prolonged period of time. So this is one of the characteristics of the vaquita. And one of the other important elements in our context is that there are coastal towns, fishing coastal towns, that were founded around fishing in the upper Gulf of California around the past hundreds of years, particularly in the 20th century, and it's part of the context that we have in the upper Gulf of California. I'm going to skip this part because I think you all know this, and I'm sure you also know this now. I mean, the decline of the vaquita population along years is directly related to gill nets, no? And particularly to the fishing of totoaba, an activity which is banned in Mexico since the 1970s. And as you know, one of the important things that we should mention is that the totoaba swim bladder is highly valued in the Chinese illegal market. So this has fueled illegal international trade with the US and Canada serving as transit or consumer markets. It's part of the important international context that we take into account. And there is a complex socio-environmental conditions as well as international conditions in addressing this important topic. No, the above is just a general context, so we can have the main elements of the problem in our panorama, and this, of course, does not exclude the responsibility and the commitment of the government, the Mexican government, along years, and it is an essential element to address the range of areas necessary to fundamentally address the situation of the vaquita, as we are going to comment now. I don't want to take a lot of time in this, but this is the main part, which is the current vision of the Mexican government and where we are now. Let me talk about a little bit about that. What we're doing now is different things. We are now continue to strengthen some mechanisms that have been developed in the past years and that have allowed us to have a better coordination and a better attention to this topic. One of the things that Mexico started to implement a few years ago in 2023 is the action plan to combat illegal fishing and trade in totoaba to protect the vaquita marina. It's a plan committed to the CITES Convention, as you know, and it has different components that Mexico executes and reports annually, actually with 2 annual reports to the CITES Convention, and it has to do with inspection and surveillance, with monitoring of the species, also with developing alternative fishing years, among other topics. Of course, it has to do also with international cooperation. So one of the things that from this administration that started around 1 year ago, we have been very, very insistent, is that we need to broaden the focus around toward a vision of comprehensive care of the Gulf of California, where inspection and surveillance play a fundamental role, as well as promoting improved social welfare conditions in the region, because inspection and surveillance without opening possibilities for the developing of the people and for the welfare of the people maybe couldn't have the same results, and it's something that we have seen in the past years, and I think it's one of the most important things that we have learned from the history of how the upper Gulf of California and the vaquita situation has been addressed in the past years. So one of the most important things that we are trying to do now is to widening the panorama in the attention. So one of the things, just to summarize, the lines of work that the Mexican government is currently executing in different ways with different agencies has to do with, of course, strengthening the inspection and surveillance in the vaquita's habitat, implementing a process for improving fisheries management that, if you allow me, I'm going to talk about it in a moment. The design and promotion of economic alternatives in the region, a permanent dialogue, very important, with the coastal fishing sector for all activities, international cooperation, as I mentioned, and the continuum of visual and monitoring activities, which Barbara just showed us. And I think Gustavo Cárdenas couldn't make it, but he was also going to talk us about the acoustic monitoring. So with this, I hope this is not too boring, but I think it's important for you to know all the current actions and the current results that we have. Sorry, Lauren, if it's too...
No, nothing is boring. Please continue.
Okay. Yeah, just a little bit, maybe you can open the conversation, but just for you to have the information, because in line with this action plan and with these strategies that I was just mentioned, this is kind of a little data about the number of vessel inspections in the boarding and disembarking sites, the number of meters of prohibited gillnets that have been removed in inspection and surveillance actions in the shipping and landing sites, but also in the zero tolerance zone and in the Vaquita refugee zone, which is a little wider zone, as you know. And well, the increase in the maritime routes in the past years, and a little bit of the process that these retained nets follow in the legal and administrative processes in Mexico, and that are finally destroyed after the legal procedures. So one of the things that has been really important for us is that the inspection and surveillance actions end in sanctions. So we have been working very closely with the General Attorney's Office and different agencies, so that we can really put an example of the consequences of these kind of activities. So that's kind of the rough part, the more direct prevention and attention activities in the area that allow us to detain people, vessels, nets in the area of the Vaquita. And as I'm sure you know from Barbara and the colleagues, a few years ago, the Mexican government, through the Navy, implemented a system of locks that was designed to contribute reducing the number of vessels in the zero tolerance zones and in the zero tolerance zone, and to prevent the entering of the gillnets in the zero tolerance zone. And this actually has allowed us to reduce in 97.6% the number of fishing vessels that enter the zero tolerance zones, because the fishers don't want to lose their nets, of course, and their nets, their gill nets, end up in these blocks that were installed by the Navy. So that has been one of the most effective, maybe radical measures that the government of Mexico have taken in the history of the attention of the Vaquita situation, but it has been very effective and it's been maintained, and it was actually expanded, as Barbara also mentioned, right? So that's other thing. And I would like to talk a little bit about the other part of the picture, which is which alternatives can we give the communities in the area so that they become allies in the conservation of the Vaquita, and that we can have this global vision that allows us to truly advance in a regional development project that can stop the use of gill nets, basically. And part of this has to do with the promotion of alternative gears, which is a long historic process that I'm sure many of you know, that have had its backs and forwards, because it's not easy to tell a community that was founded in the fishing activity to stop doing what they have been done for 100 years. So it has been, and it's been a process of dialogue with the fishing sector, and a process of looking for alternatives together. So part of this work has to do with something that I'm going to show you now, which is the reactivation of this committee that I'm sure you know, because it was active some years ago and then it stopped, which is the ECOFT committee, the Expert Committee on Fishing Technologies, which is for us one of the most important key elements to the success of the conservation of the vaquita measures, because it allows us to give the fishing communities an alternative to stop using the gill nets that impacts the vaquita. So we have had different meetings with them, and one of the things that we did was to put on the same table, invite on the same table the fishing communities with the experts from the ECOFT and different specialists, national and international, because one of the things that we identified is that maybe in previous years this didn't happen necessarily. There were two different paths. The path of the fisheries communities and the paths of the authorities or the specialists or the scientifics. So one of the things that we are trying to do now and have been doing is to put in the same table all the necessities, all the ideas, and all the proposals from the different sectors, so we can take decisions together, right? And to add our resources, the resources that we need to implement the different actions together. So that's one of the important things. The other one that I skipped, sorry, is that the process of improving the fisheries management. One of the things that we need as a government to guarantee the protection of the vaquita marina is to have order in all this fishing management. And one of the things that are being done now since the end of the last year, it's a census in all the Upper Gulf of California region, so we can have very well identified how many fisheries are, where they are, how they fish, etc., and align the different lists, the different registers from the different authorities, so we can have a consolidated fisheries management system. No, so we worked with the Navy, with SEMAR, for the which are in charge of the vessel registration, with CONAPESCA, which are in charge of the fishing permits, with Semarnat, us, which we make the evaluation of the environmental impact assessments submitted by the fishing federations, and we are doing an integration of these the registers, and this has actually allowed us to do the next thing that I'm going to present you, which is the implementation of a small vessel location system, which is also a compromise from Mexico that is it ended its first stage with covering all the legal vessels operating in the area of San Felipe, right? And we are now working in the Gulf of Santa Clara area. So this is an important activity that we were able to concrete this year, and that also we were able to do hand in hand with the fishing sector, with the regular fishing sector, and that allows us as a government to difference very well and have very well identified the fishing activities that are within the frame of the law and that respect all the rules to protect the vaquita, and those who don't. So this is an important topic also for us, and that was one of the activities that the Mexican government have been preparing for some past years, and that it's now operating in San Felipe. So next, I'm not going to talk about the visual and the acoustic monitoring because Barbara just gave her expert presentation. I just wanted to finish this presentation so we can talk a little bit about what you are interested in by saying that the government of Mexico is now in a condition, I believe, with different organizations that works in the zone that have been working in the zone, which gave us truly hope that we can keep working together, not in separate paths, but working together to the same goal. So we have been convening the CIRVA, for example, the International Committee for the Recovery for the Vaquita. We convened the CIRVA in the first time this year in May, if I'm not wrong. And then we have had permanent contact with them, with Barbara, with Lorenzo, with the more than 15 specialists from CIRVA that have been helping us to advise, to make advices and to review along with the fishing sector all the measures that we are reviewing right now for the protection of the vaquita. So we think we are in a good moment, which is of course not something to be satisfied. It's a critical, really critical condition that the vaquita is in still and going to be for many years, but we are hopeful for this condition that we have right now, and we are very happy to see that there are groups that remain with energy, with hope, with creativity, as the one that you organize, Lauren, Marcus, colleagues. And so I wanted to show you something now that I was listening to Julius, because I actually have some pictures from vaquita figures that were made by locals from San Felipe and Santa Clara, that with the illegal nets that were retained, and with that plastic, we have a project through the Natural Protected National Commission, so that the community can transform those illegal nets into vaquita figures with a 3D equipment. So if I may, I just wanted to show that quickly.
Yeah, we'd love to see it.
Let me...
And some amazing work as you're talking there, Valder, of all the organizations that are coming back and the work that they're doing for the observation and the licensing and I'm forgetting the word, but all the work that your group has been doing is amazing, strengthening the actions of protecting the vaquita.
Thank you, Lauren. It's not easy. It's a rough path, but there's a lot of motivation. I can tell you that.
Yeah.
I'm trying
Whoa.
to, yeah, this is it.
This is the plastic from the nets that's been turned into filament for a 3D printer.
Yeah, it
Whoa.
is. I have more pictures of the process. Let me see if I can.
I think we have time for maybe one more picture of the process. This is really cool.
Okay.
I was going to ask as you were talking, is there any way to use the material from the nets, but it's already, it's well underway.
Yeah, it is. It has been a process to to acquire the different equipment that is needed. So you have to elaborate the filament and then do the figures, but it's a great project, and we hope we don't have enough nets to keep doing this, but it's a project that helps us visualize this in a different way. So that I remember that when I was listening to all of you, and I wanted to share it.
Thank you so much for sharing that, and Valder, for your time. We really appreciate the update you've given us from the Mexican government and all the work that they're doing to actively protect the vaquita. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Lauren.
Have a good one. Bye. We're going to keep going. We've got a few more folks that are going to share their updates with us as well. Our next person joining us is Dr. Forrest Gomez. Hello and welcome.
Hello.
How are you doing?
I'm fine. How are you?
We're pretty great over here. We're just enjoying the rain in Vancouver and talking vaquitas. So everything's wet, which is great.
I love it. That's good. Water. We all love water that are on here or listening. So I am on board with this. It's also rainy where I am. So
there you go.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you. Thank you for having me. The talks have been fantastic so far. Very amazing what you all have put together. Honored to be here. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it. We'll take it away with your update for us.
Okay, I will go ahead and get started. Oh, good. I can advance my own slides. Amazing. This is amazing. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, great. All right. Well, without further ado, good morning, everyone that's online and listening. And thank you for joining us today. My name is Forrest Gomez. I am a veterinarian and a scientist, and I currently have the honor of serving as the Director of Conservation Medicine for my organization, which is the National Marine Mammal Foundation. For those of you that are unfamiliar with who we are a nonprofit. We're based in San Diego, California. And before I dive into updating you on what our organization and our partners have been working on, I do want to make sure to express our organization's deep gratitude to both Dr. Lorenzo Rojas Bracho, as well as Dr. Barb Taylor, who we got to hear from earlier today. They have dedicated their careers, as many of you know, to the vaquita, and their leadership really does continue to inspire our work for this species and also for other at-risk small cetaceans around the world. I would also like to acknowledge our CEO and president, Dr. Cynthia Smith, who's a dear friend and also mentor and colleague. And because of her unwavering commitment to the vaquita and to endangered species, we are able to build partnerships and make this work possible. And it really is shaping what we're sharing today, those three people in particular. For those of you that don't know us, I thought I would just spend a quick minute to tell you about our organization. Our mission is to improve and protect life for aquatic mammals, for humans, and for our shared oceans. We do that through science, service, and also, of course, community engagement and education. Our team consists of around 100 people, and we have a broad background of skill sets. We're made up of scientists, animal care specialists, veterinarians, community engagement specialists, etc. And we all come together for this common mission. We serve on the front lines of conservation, applying our I think, unique in some aspects, scientific, medical, and educational expertise to support animals, ecosystems, and the local communities that are in need wherever we happen to be. And this work has included such projects as leading the long-term health assessments following the Deepwater Horizon oil spill disaster in Barataria Bay, Louisiana, here in the United States. That long-term effort, which has lasted over a decade, has produced critical oil spill science and has helped, that work has helped inform the oil spill litigation, mitigation strategies, as well as policy. We also helped lead the Vaquita CPR effort in 2017, which was a courageous international effort to protect the remaining vaquitas in the Sea of Cortez. I'm sure many of you listening are familiar with this. And although this effort was halted due to the sensitivity of the species, these efforts have sparked a passion within our organization, and I know many of our partners, to continue to fight not only for the vaquita, but also other whales, dolphins, and porpoises that are also at risk of extinction around the world. Following vaquita CPR, our current efforts that are currently on hold, but these efforts have resulted in a project that we have named Operation Esperanza, meaning hope. And it is a program that was initially funded by the United States Trade Representative and administered by the US Navy and the National Marine Mammal Foundation. And it engaged NGOs, government agencies, corporations, academic institutions, as well as, of course, community groups, all in support of the government of Mexico and their efforts to conserve the vaquita. We prioritize state-of-the-art technology and collaboration with the local fishing community, bringing novel approaches to vaquita conservation. You can see from this slide that it was a very large collaborative effort involving many organizations from both the US as well as Mexico, all working together on 4 main initiatives, which I will walk through next. The first of these initiatives was focused on advancing the ongoing acoustic monitoring to provide real-time insights into the remaining vaquitas locations, working with acoustic specialists, scientific and engineering personnel. Operation Esperanza did include local Mexican scientists and aimed to integrate novel state-of-the-art acoustic detection systems to gain real-time insight into vaquita distribution, where they were, their behavior, and advancing the knowledge of the whereabouts of these few remaining animals so that we could aid in their protection and in their preservation. The second pillar of Operation Esperanza was leveraging a drone-based effort led by the National Marine Mammal Foundation called SEAHAWK, which stands for System for Expert Aerial Health Assessment of Wild Cetaceans. We had the support of Raytheon Technologies, UC San Diego in California, UAB CS in Baja, CONAB, Sea Shepherd, many other organizations that I'm sure I'm leaving out, but a very collaborative. And as part of this objective, we aim to develop and integrate cutting-edge drone and other aerial technologies, and again, in order to know better where they are by detecting them, also be able to identify them, ideally, from the drones or aerial technology, and then document and assess them from a health perspective, a critical step given how few animals remain. It's really important that we know not only where they are, but how they're doing. The third aim of Operation Esperanza was to advance environmental DNA techniques, which is a new-ish technology that allows scientists to look for and identify the DNA of vaquita in water, even after they're gone, or even if they have not been sighted, since they can be quite elusive. And finally, and probably most importantly, Operation Esperanza was planning to provide funding for critical group efforts led by local teams and nonprofits focused on community engagement and sustainable fishing, making sure that we're not only working to protect the vaquita, but also the local communities that depend on the same ecosystem and resources as the vaquita. Unfortunately, for our project team and for the vaquita, about 8 months into this effort, our federal funding stream was cut and all efforts had to be halted. So although this was unexpected, we previously were working on a tight project timeline from the beginning. And so we were able to accomplish some objectives in the short time that we had to work before the teams lost their funding and had to stop. The acoustic team, for instance, was able to start to design this novel real-time acoustic buoy system and start to put it together. Again, hopefully in the future, we'll be able to deploy it, allowing us to detect the vaquita clicks and movement, log vessel activity potentially, and transmit data to remote dashboards to help us aid in knowing where they are in real time. Oops, I don't know if this video is going to play. If someone can try to play it, that would be amazing. If not, I will just, you can see this beautiful image of drone footage of 2 vaquita. which we were able to get during the 2024 survey. We conducted eDNA and drone phonogrammetry research in coordination with Sea Shepherd and all of the groups that were working together during the survey. A drone with altimeter capability was supplied by our project along with Fabian, an incredible Mexican drone pilot, and he was able to capture this drone footage, which it's okay, it's not playing. I think Barb was able to show it earlier. And because it was had that altimeter capability, they were able to collect the vaquita length and girth, and that could be estimated from the photographs for use in assessing health and determining age class. Our Mexican drone specialist also was able to capture this high-resolution drone footage, including this mother and calf pair, and we were able to initiate the Seahawk design process, which again is going to enable AI-enabled detection, dorsal fin recognition, and even more advanced photogrammetry for health assessments. So even after the funding was pulled, a few of I have to mention that a few of our drone team members who do work on something completely different, and we had contracted them in their free time, have continued to develop the Seahawk system on their own with their own funding. And it's been very amazing to watch them just move on despite our halt. And they have been able to demonstrate some operational feasibility, even in the challenging upper Gulf environment. And we're really excited to hopefully be able to pick this up soon again and let them go along with Fabian and really move the Seahawk system forward. Additionally, the eDNA team was able to collect, and again this year collect, quite a few eDNA samples across many of the ZTA sites and beyond, generating the most extensive eDNA data set for vaquita to date. So thank you to Tanya for her hard work on that one objective of Operation Esperanza. We also were very committed in our short time period that the project was able to run to engaging the community and through student engagement and technical advancement through training sessions. This is a photo from one of the training sessions that was conducted for the drone operations for community members and Biosphere Reserve staff. And then Tanya also conducted environmental DNA sampling training for women in the community group. Additionally, we worked with a graduate student here in the States who is drafted a manuscript, which is currently in review, that is reviewing the current use of drones in small cetaceans. It's used more routinely in large cetaceans. And that's a really important step that we wanted to make sure to accomplish, because we want to make sure that we're fostering innovation and collaboration rather than duplication of any effort that has already occurred. So that publication will be coming out soon as well. The drone purchased for Operation Esperanza does now live in Mexico and is now managed there and used there to preserve the vaquita. And last, although we weren't able to fully execute our community engagement objective, unfortunately, before the project was halted, we did partner with local NGOs and fishing cooperatives to co-develop the project's alternative gear program, ensuring that these solutions are both technically feasible and economically sustainable. And this program now stands ready to be reinstated as soon as we can get funding to keep it going. The urgency of this work reaches beyond a single species. Vaquita are part of a broader global pattern, unfortunately. That's why we're all here today. We've been bringing attention to this report, which was put out in 2024 by WWF, that warns that the planet is nearing ecological tipping points, and that a larger collective effort is really required to confront the dual crisis of climate and biodiversity loss that everyone that's listening today is very aware of. Nature is sounding the alarm, and our oceans are unfortunately growing quieter. It is very real right now. And what we build for the vaquita is not isolated. Of course, we're fighting for the vaquita. That's what Operation Esperanza is all about. But the methods, the lessons, and the technical capacity and innovation that we develop here is directly transferable to other whales, dolphins, and porpoises around the world that are now facing similar risk. Our organization has responded to this, really to our involvement with vaquita it has really opened our eyes to the plight of small cetaceans and large cetaceans around the world. We have launched a program, which if you scan the QR code, I would love for you to go and learn more about. It's called Operation GRACE. GRACE stands for the Global Rescue of At-Risk Cetaceans and Ecosystems. And we're trying to apply our organization's skill set wherever they're needed to build local technical capacity, working with local partners in order to help in whatever way we can with the next species that are at nearing similar concerns. And it's important that we act quickly and diligently so that we don't get caught in the vaquita situation again. So Operation GRACE is our forward thinking, taking everything that we've picked up through vaquita and our commitment to vaquita and applying it elsewhere. So to close up, the vaquita persists, as Barb talked about this morning, which means our work is still very consequential. It's important that we all still care, and we all still fight, and we all still work towards the conservation of the vaquita. We at the foundation will continue to work to safeguard the remaining individuals in whatever way that we can and apply what we learn to protect again to other species around the world. Operation Esperanza and those associated 4 objectives that I walk through today, like I said, they were well on their way before funding was halted. And we are ready to resume as soon as funding can be restored. So thank you for your attention and for coming today and standing with the vaquita, and of course our shared oceans and that water that we spoke about when I first jumped on.
Thank you so much. That's an incredibly detailed overview of the organization that you're a part of, that you've started, and the work that you're doing as a group. And so sorry about your loss of funding. I think that's the thing, is so many amazing groups lost funding. For the funding, I know you said with the one group of people with the Seahawk that they're doing it with own private funding. Are you able to collect resources from private donors? Like if people are listening to this and saying, oh my gosh, please take my money so you can keep going. Is that something that you can do?
Yes, absolutely. If they visit that QR code for Operation GRACE, you can donate there. And I believe you can pick the project to dedicate it to. And our drone team is going. We are very active still, like I said. 2 of our experts that have full-time engineering jobs during the day have been working with Lorenzo and making this project continue. I mean, honestly, when they surprised us with what they were doing, and Cynthia and I both were driven to tears. I mean, it's just phenomenal, but they need funding. So we've been updating what that project should look like. And the nice thing about it is it can start again with very little, and then we can just keep going up as we acquire more and more funding. So every little bit really does count.
That's amazing. Well, hopefully anyone who's watching or watches it later and is able to help can help and get that going again, because as we've heard from other presenters, as you've said, it's amazing to see the overlap that obviously all of you are working together in these different pieces for this whole puzzle. The drone footage, the drone operation, as you say, you having local folks who are able to go out. Can they operate the drone like almost any day if the weather permits, if they are able to?
Yes, except there is strict permitting and permissions that have to occur. So that definitely has to all be coordinated, but they, of course, do that working with the government of Mexico and Lorenzo's group, etc.
Absolutely. And the work with the nets, is that connected to, we just talked to Valder about the committee that had been established talking about alternatives. Is that connected to what he was talking about?
Yes, a little, in that we are very integrated with Pesca ABC and CAT and those local NGOs that are really on the ground in San Felipe and in the surrounding areas to make sure that the communities are being integrated fully and that the sustainable practices are all coming together. So we designed that pillar with them. It was not us designing it in a silo. We designed it with them and for them. And we're ready to pick that back up again as soon as, again, the funding is reinstated, if possible, or additional donors.
Absolutely. And with your work, I know as we talked to Barb earlier with the research being done at certain times of the year, with the funding, would you folks be able to go a year long with the work that you're doing?
Absolutely, because different parts of it require different field settings, if that makes sense. So, it is very challenging to work there from a wind and heat, and there's just a lot of complications to doing field work there, but we know it very well. We've been involved for so long, and there's a lot of work that needs to be done on the ground, not necessarily on the water or in the lab. For instance, with eDNA, we need to continue that, finish analyzing, get those publications out. But Tanya and her team need funding and they need support in order to do that. So there's a lot that can go on year round to get the goals accomplished.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for your update. It's a amazing amount of information, and we hope we can help find some funding to get your work back out
Thank
there.
you.
So thank you so much, Forrest.
Yeah, and thank you for doing this. This is incredible. Spreading the word is probably the most important thing. So thank you for hosting us today.
Absolutely. Our pleasure. Thank you so much. Amazing amounts of information coming out today. And I think for me, the biggest thing I'm seeing is just, I knew there was a lot of groups out there involved in this, but it's amazing to see how many groups, how many people are doing the work that we've been talking about Viva Vaquita for years and had these conversations about it'd be nice to have alternatives, and it's happening. People are doing it and absolutely sharing that.
Yeah, and the Porpoise Conservation Society was also able, one of the organizations that Forrest just mentioned, PASCA ABC, I don't know, I don't speak Spanish. It's a group of fishermen, and we were able to fund testing of fishing gear at the University of Newfoundland earlier this year. So
it's amazing.
Yeah, it's really so many groups coming together. And everybody's talking about the vaquita, right? That's why we're doing this.
Everyone's talking about it.
Clearly, it's working.
They got the Riz. That's the appropriate use of that word, right? Riz? I think that's what my students say. Anyway, we're going to move on. We'll keep talking vaquita. We are being joined once again by Dr. Julius. He's still doing art behind me. Well, there I go. How's it looking?
Well, we're making some progress here. I've been adding details both to the vaquita as well as its background. And as you'll see here in a moment, it's coming together, and it's a kind of a complex kind of a composition here. Very different from my usual work. It's a lot more expressive in some ways. Thank you. And so, yeah, I wanted to just make use of this really fun medium, this scratch board, and the way that I can just remove some of this ink from the surface and create kind of pattern is a big thing here, right, in this image. So see if I can find it. There we go. Center. Oh my God, I'm trying to think of reversely. There we go.
Can you show people like how thick this thing is? Because when you told me about it, I'm going to be scratching with a knife. I was like, oh my God, he's going to ruin everything in the studio. But no,
so,
it's
a very
really thick.
Thin. It's a thick piece, right? It's not like paper. It's a board of wood, and then it's been coated underneath this black surface with this bright white kaolinite clay, and that's what you're seeing here being revealed as I scratch the surface of the black paint off. It's the reverse of what we usually do. I'm not adding medium to it. I'm actually removing some of what's already there to reveal what's underneath it. And you can use any kind of tool that's sharp enough or abrasive enough to remove the layer of paint. And you can be very creative about that. So I'm just using an X-Acto knife. It's basically like using a very, very thin pencil. But you can also use wire brushes if you wanted to have other kinds of effects. This is a great medium if you wanted to paint fur, for example. I've done that before, or feathers. It's wonderful for that. But you can really do anything, and it requires patience, as art work does in general. But the effect I find is very rewarding, and I'm just really enjoying doing this. Every time I pick up a scratch board, and it's not too often, I really feel like I should do it more often. But every time I do, it just gives me kind of a thrill to work with it. For some reason, the way it comes out with this very, very thin white lines on the black, to me, it's just it's very easy to create something that feels very rewarding. I find
it's so shiny.
It's
slightly reflective.
Yes. I think it's some component of. I think it's a combination of the appearance of the clay, but also the way that the scratchy knife partly probably polishes a little bit of the ink as it removes some of it. The surface that's left behind becomes a little bit shinier. So it gives you this almost, what would be the effect? Kind of like a metallic look almost, even in some cases. So it is kind of fun to do that. And I mean, right now, I'm also having fun with it because a lot of the details I'm putting in the background, I'm just kind of making up as I go. It's not all planned out. And sometimes that is really fun with artwork, to kind of let it take its own course. And in that sense, it very much reflects how water behaves, these eddies of currents in it and so on. And we're really talking about dynamic situations and changing population sizes. So it, change and the way in which currents move and so on is very sort of pertinent to what we're talking about here today as well. So this is one of the reasons why I wanted to create this particular kind of artwork today, this kind of composition. And, I'm hoping that we can get more and more attention to the vaquita's plight, have more people involved. We've seen already several speakers talk about some really great endeavors to help us gain more information about the vaquitas' whereabouts and their population, as well as ways to work with organizations such as the Mexican Navy to actually physically remove or prevent the emplacement of the nets that are entangling these vaquita and drowning, unfortunately, some of them. So this is all about working together. And it's just hard to overstate the importance of and the benefit of many of us working together. And that way we don't each have to do as much effort. If we join our efforts together, we create basically a super organism. It's like we gain effectively superpowers by working together. We're able to do far more than we can do individually. And it's also important because it makes our individual efforts, which may individually seem small, much more significant. We end up having a much larger reach. And so working together is something that is absolutely crucial, both to protection of the vaquita, but also any kind of conservation efforts and any kind of humanitarian efforts. And, the world is full of bad news, but we can actually make a difference by working together in so many different ways. I'm very inspired to hear of the efforts that Aiden and Forrest and everybody else has been doing here that we've heard of so far and that we're going to hear of some more as well.
And for such a long time, right? News has been pretty dire over the last few years, but there's also still bits of pretty good news.
Yep.
That's what motivates us to keep going.
Yeah, you're right.
People tell us all the time, but the vaquita's almost gone. Like, why do you dedicate efforts towards it? Well, we haven't given up yet.
And that's a really good point. This is something that I think about as well. It's like, yes, we are very, I tend to be stubbornly optimistic and hopeful. At the same time, yes, we're realistic. We know that it's possible we could lose this fight. It's not out of the possibilities. It's amazing that this much success has been done. It's a testament to our working together and the resilience of this beautiful little porpoise. But what happens, in the worst case scenario? Well, when I think about that, I think, no, nothing will stop. We won't stop because there are other species there and elsewhere that absolutely require efforts. If the worst were to happen, it would infuriate me, but it's going to make me even more motivated to work harder. I'm taking the stance of we have to stand up to poaching and illegal overexploitation of the biosphere, and not allow setbacks to stop us, to hold us back, for those who are exploiting to be able to see that and say, oh, see, well, if we can just kind of get this out of the way, they're going to give up. No, we are standing here and our position on this is this far, no further. We're not going to give up. This is not going to stop, no matter what outcome there is. We're going to keep on fighting, and we're going to keep on fighting even harder to do what we can to protect this unique life that we have on Earth. All of the many different life forms. I personally, I'm not going to give up fighting while there's a single species left to protect. And that's my attitude with this. There is so much beauty in the world that even damaged, it is absolutely exquisitely beautiful. And we need to protect it. This is the only life we know of. And I'm not going to give up while I've got breath in me and in every different way that we can think of.
And
go for it, Marcus. I know we both had a thought at the same time.
I wanted to mention a point that we keep making is how it is all connected, right? So if you're trying to protect that one species, in the case of the vaquita, we were talking earlier about the development of sustainable fishing gear. That's something that applies to the entire ecosystem. We were talking about the totraba, another critically endangered species that is drowning in those fishing nets, and it's the same nets in which the vaquita is drowning. So the development of those nets is benefiting all those species, the entire ecosystem. Of course, those are not the only cetaceans or animals in general that are getting entangled in fishing nets. So solving that problem of bycatch, which is still a huge problem. I know about a decade ago, Lauren, the two of us, we were at the Vancouver Aquarium Marine Science Center back then.
Shout out.
And we were talking about sustainable seafood at the time, and I think we said something along the lines of up to 70% is bycatch for some fisheries. I don't know the exact numbers. We were talking about yesterday, 80%, or is it now 90% of the large fish stock, large predatory fish stocks, they're already gone. So when we talk about sustainable fishing gear, there's a lot to do still. I don't think that number has gone down. They haven't recovered.
No, it's still pretty high, and not only is it that we're fishing down the food chain. So you start eating those the bluefin tuna, the highly sought after. There's not many left. So you're going after the albacore tuna, the smaller tuna. As humans, we kind of just keep going down the food chain, and the other problem too is when you have things like the krill fishery. Those are boats that are going down to the Antarctic, and they're fishing the main food source for the animals that live there. So you're taking out the bottom of the food chain. So we're kind of doing this like top bottom, like we are the shark chomping down. Love sharks, no comment on sharks, but it's pretty significant. And as you're saying, the bycatch of the fisheries, there's been horrifying footage of all these kinds of fisheries, but some of those bottom trawlers that basically have giant wheels, they go down to the bottom of the ocean, they just drag the net, and there's footage of everything just being destroyed in the wake of those boats as they pull them. So clearly humans need to eat fish. Clearly it's a part of our diet, but there has to be a better way to do this. And the fact that so many groups are doing that research, can we just target the specific thing and not get bycatch, not get all these other fish when we're catching shrimp?
And that's where Walder was saying that it's important to work with the local communities. We don't want to have this kind of attitude, and it, we can come across very presumptuous and privileged, saying, "Oh well, we just stop doing that." No, they need to support themselves as well. The only way through this is to work together, and I'll keep saying that we need to consider everybody in this. We don't want to antagonize. We don't want to make enemies. We want people to know that we care about them and not, we're all together on this, all of life on Earth, including humans. We need to look out for each other. Empathy and compassion are things that we need absolutely much more of in the world. There can never be too much of it. And part of that is exactly considering the importance of looking after local communities of people that absolutely depend on their livelihood. And so we need to find ways to change the destructiveness of techniques and reduce the amount of bycatch, for example, in fishing techniques. We can do this in many successful ways. We need to be creative, work together, and use our minds to come up with ways that are much more effective, more efficient, and less destructive. And it can be done. We've shown that time and again with all kinds of technologies that we can develop and hone and make more efficient and less destructive the means by which we acquire the resources that we need for our survival.
And I think humans are pretty great about being adaptable, and we all see it all the time where, we were talking about the effort for vaquita a few years ago. The idea was, could we collect them and house them in a facility where they are free from being caught by nets. They essentially would be in human care. They clearly are able to have babies. They want to have babies. The only thing killing these things is these nets in the water. The ones that are dying are very well fed. And that was the effort, was to see, could we collect them? And for anyone watching remembers, the answer is no. There are other animals that don't do well in human care, and it's just a biological thing. There's a whole lot that goes along with that. But human ingenuity, being able to kind of say, okay, that's not going to work. Now what do we try? And as Dr. Gomez just listed, so many amazing things that they're doing. Musqua, the work that they're doing, all of these organizations are coming up with okay, what about this? Okay, but what about this? Humans will never stop doing that. And I think that's one of our superpowers. And the other thought I had as I had stepped away for a minute was, we've been talking about what can people do to help protect vaquita, and in general biodiversity. And we've listed off a whole bunch of things, but as we're hearing from a lot of our presenters, funding was cut or funding was limited. And I've kind of gone back to the basics of good old bake sales. If you yourself don't have money to donate, I get it. But maybe you're a really great baker, or you're really good at crafting. Christine has made these. Where's yours?
There we go. Yes, there we go. Show it off.
Adorable jellyfish. Maybe you're a crafter. Maybe you're making something. There are ways to raise money. And if this is something that you're passionate about, share your skill with maybe raising funds for these amazing organizations that absolutely need funding if it's not coming from their historical sources.
So you see,
there's a lot to do.
This is a good reason why we're doing things like we are doing today here. It's exactly it. We're trying to reach out to more people that haven't heard about the plight of the vaquita and other beings with whom they share their environment. We need people to be investing effort as much as we can. We can do a lot of fun things to be able to do this, to spread the word and to raise money and more awareness. This is where we need to get creative. So, we need to put on our creative hats and come up with even more ways to do what we need to do here. But we're really good at that, as Lauren points out. As humans, we're really innovative.
Yeah.
And so let's use that.
Someone has commented here that their only skills are eating and sleeping, which are still useful skills, but also you could use that for your own evil purposes and towards, vaquita conservation. So I'm sure you have more skills than just that. That's probably just the tip of the iceberg for you there. Julius, this art is looking amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm having a lot of fun with it, actually. It's got this it's kind of a meditative quality to doing this kind of a thing. I've always liked to do artwork that is partly expressive. I love accuracy as well. So this is the vaquita, and there's taking care of that. But I also love expressive artwork that involves abstract, semi-abstract, surreal elements in it. And it's something that I'm sort of exploring a little bit more now in my career than I did earlier on, and having a lot of fun with it. So it just goes to show that you can change your way of doing things sometimes, explore new avenues. And for me, that's always been fun. I love exploration. I'm very much an explorer at heart. And that includes not just the natural world and figuring out how it works, but also different techniques in artwork. And so this is kind of a fun thing for me.
I think the variety of art we've seen today, not only from yourself, Julius, but we've seen it from other people. And when Casey was on earlier, it's so cool to see the whole breadth of vaquita amazingness. And Casey had made the comment that she had a giant. She actually has a life-size vaquita model, which is stunning. Excellent. Apparently someone printed for her, 3D printed. It's kind of the theme of today.
Yeah, I love to see other artists making efforts like that, like Casey is doing, having these Twitch streams and getting lots more people involved in viewing. This is really wonderful. We do have a lot of useful technologies these days for communication that we should be making use of as much as possible. I don't make anywhere near as much use of it as I should, but it's inspiring to see people with more knowledge in it actually doing that. And to be a part of this kind of a program here, where there are others like Marcus and Lauren and Christine and many others here who are arranging these broadcasts and these collaborative efforts, so that we can spread this word by broadcasting. I think that's wonderful.
Absolutely. And someone's reminding me here, it was paleontologizing has made that giant life-size vaquita for Casey. So other people wanting their own life-size vaquita plushes. There's a bunch of great YouTube videos on how to sew. Maybe you have fabric that you don't need anymore. Maybe you have a sleeping bag that you're like, what else can I do with a sleeping bag since it no longer keeps me warm? Make a life-size vaquita plush. There's a whole industry here for you.
Yeah, so many different things that we can do. And it's a matter of motivating ourselves, but also, working together and talking with each other, because that can inspire us in many different ways. This is what's fun about communication and, getting together. You talked about having these what was the term you used for, having like the pictures of Vaquita all over, for example, if we can kind of...
art bombing?
Art bombing, there you go, art bombing, yes.
Friendly art bombing.
It's all good, yes. Yes, sharing with the world a plethora of artwork to people will remember images as well.
Yeah.
We are a very visual species often. And so this is actually helpful. But also there's music as well. Think about that. There's so many different forms of art. There's writing, there's prose and poetry, music, visual arts, all kinds of things, 3D, 2D, who knows?
So, oh my gosh, Marcus has put up this amazing, go for it.
There you go.
We were talking about bake sales, and I remember that I had permission from Sarah, who messaged us on Facebook, and she said her 10-year-old daughter and her Girl Scout troop, they were raising awareness for the vaquita, and they donated those funds to us. It was part of funding that we used to fund research on sustainable fishing gear at the University of Newfoundland earlier this year. And their names are Audrey, Hannah, Alexa, Muskan, and Mahi. Thank you so much. 5th graders who came together to support us. So I wanted to give them a shout out here as well.
Oh, kids, if you are listening, you are the future. Yep. This is so awesome that you did that. Keep it going if you want to keep making that. That's what a move. I remember Marcus mentioned that we had been at the aquarium and there was students that came in a few times that had raised money for their birthday. They didn't want presents. So they raised funds for the seal rescue that Julius had mentioned earlier. And it's so adorable and just melts my cold heart when I hear these stories of adorable kids doing that, of, no matter how old they are, giving back. And there's all of us out there, like whether it's a little or a lot, it all adds up, and it's beautiful to see.
It's true. And I wish I could mention all of them. There have been many, many more people that have emailed us. We constantly get emails from schools and from children. There was a group at a private school in England. They were raising funds for the vaquita as well. They were doing a bake sale. It's happening all around the world. And it's a chance to connect with their local porpoise species. If I remembered which button is me, this is me. I knew it. If you think about, the vaquita doesn't have that many extant living among us relatives anymore. But in the UK, for instance, they do have the harbor porpoise. They have special areas of conservation there as well, because even though they're not endangered quite yet, they still face a lot of threats. So there's a lot you can do for all those species.
Absolutely,
all over the planet. There's seven porpoises to choose from. We can save them all together. We can save them all.
And that's the thing. I think that it is really inspiring to me to see kids taking on these kinds of projects. And for the children out there, you are superheroes. I'm not kidding. You guys have so much power to make change. And don't let anybody ever tell you that you can't, because we have lots of evidence that shows that you, in fact, have already made enormous differences. And I can't tell you how much that inspires all of us. Please keep it up. All of us are doing everything we can to help support you with this, and we were happy to do more. It is extraordinarily inspiring to see you being involved, because to know that you're already concerned about this is what gives us hope for the future. Seriously, that does a lot for me, and I just love to see that.
And we're also really old, right? So it really helps that we know that we're raising the next generation of conservationists who are ready, like Julius, to chain himself to a bank if necessary, whatever it takes. Can't start early enough.
And that's the thing. I mean, I love the fact that children are going to be tomorrow's leaders and scientists and responsible citizens. If we see you taking this much care and concern for things today, that speaks really loudly to me. And so kudos to you, and thank you so much for your efforts. Keep it up. We're going to support you all the way as much as we can.
Well, and we're going to give them a bit more information too. I think we're going to get ready to move on to our panel with our experts. Pretty much everyone you've heard from today, we're going to bring them back. We've got some questions. We've got some more information that we can share. And I think we'll work on, sorry, as I think I sprung that on Marcus. I just got a panicked look. He said, everything's fine. Everything's fine. We're good.
It's just, there's so many buttons to press, and
So
I
many
only know
buttons.
half of them. And I'm the tech person. That's the scary part.
So for anyone watching, I can see we've got several folks watching live right now. You can type a comment or question into the chat. I will do my best to keep an eye on that. So if you have any questions, and there were some questions asked earlier today that I've put on the side, so I was hoping to bring those up for our panelists here. So it looks like we are being joined by Tom, by Forrest, by Aiden, by Barb, and I think this is our fantastic looking panel. Look at you all. Thank you so much for sticking around and coming back. How's everyone still doing?
Awesome.
Thumbs up. I like it. Okay. So I know we weren't able to have Gustavo join us today. And I wanted to ask Barb first, maybe to start our panel off. I know you had referenced that he was going to be sharing some information. Are you able to share maybe some of what he had to share?
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's such a pity that he wasn't able to join us. So they started putting out acoustic detectors in late May, and they ran them all the way, sort of across the distribution of vaquitas. They had over 8,000 days of data.
Oh.
And they, detected most vaquitas in the refuge, which is actually really good news there and sort of nearby, but also outside of the ZTA. So it'll be really important data to do some further analysis on, and to Valder and the other people in the government of Mexico to work with the fishermen to try to make, stepwise conservation towards, moving to the right place to save Mexico's species and the world's species.
Absolutely. I know other people have also worked with Gustavo and on these projects. Maybe Tom, I'll go back to you first. Is there anything that you wanted to add to what we've heard so far today of this discussion and our increasing knowledge about vaquita?
Well, I think really the main points that are important to think about really have been made quite well in the presentations. And I think the most important thing is, and I'm sure everybody who's dealing with conservation of wildlife probably deals with this as well. I know I do. And that is that it can seem pretty depressing these days. There's a lot of bad news about what's going on in the world, not just with the vaquita and other marine mammal species, but with wildlife in general, nature in general, climate change. There's just a lot of information about what's happening that's seeming pretty depressing. And it's really, really important to make sure not to lose hope, because we need to remember that for all that has been lost so far and all that we might still lose in the future, there's still a lot that we can save. And one of the things that really helped me recently a lot, I'm sure you all know that Dr. Jane Goodall passed away maybe it's been about a month now. And she has a special that she recorded before she passed away called Famous Last Words. And she instructed people that she works with not to show that until after she was gone. And so it's available now on Netflix. And I watched it about a week ago. And it was really amazing and incredible to hear her words. You know, she was not shy in calling out people like Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin and Kim Jong-un and Elon Musk and other people who were, you know, using their positions of power to actually try to stop or hinder environmental conservation efforts as much as they possibly can. And I really, you know, feel very happy that she was, you know, brave enough to do that. But it's also important to know that she also finished her message with a really inspiring and helpful and encouraging note. And, you know, her big message was, don't lose hope. She kind of likened this to a war, which in some ways it kind of is. And she really, I think, did a good job of using her amazing ability to speak to people and you know, her incredible achievements that she's done over so many decades to really get people to focus on the fact that, you know, no matter how discouraging it seems, we've got to keep fighting for what's right and keep fighting for nature and wildlife. And again, there's a lot still that can be saved. So I think that's just something that I just like to emphasize. You know, at this point, it's really important just to keep moving forward. Don't get too depressed. You know, the victories are going to come. You know, they may be relatively small, seemingly sometimes, but it's important to just keep moving forward and not lose hope.
Absolutely. Well, and I guess part of that hope, I had a question actually for both Forrest and Valder. It was, you both can probably speak to it, about that ZTA, that zone of where the vaquita are spending their time. And obviously it was expanded, as Barb had mentioned earlier. I was wondering if there was any plans to put those concrete blocks in other places. Obviously, the ZT area is the area that they can focus on to do the research, and that was statistically where the vaquita were spending time. But I was curious, is there any plans to put those concrete blocks out in other places to expand that zone? I was wondering if either of you could speak to that.
Yes, it's of course a possibility, no? A real possibility. We are analyzing the polygons along with Barb and the team, and it's not defined something yet to install new blocks, but it's a permanent possibility. If it's the measure and the decision that we need to make, we will make it, right? Based on the scientific data and the agreements that we generate. So it's a permanent possibility. Know that right now we have a decision on that. Right now we are actually confirming, well, I don't know. I think we are not able to talk about the last results of the
right.
Yeah, but we are. Okay. But we are, for example, in the last days reviewing with Barb the main registers from the vaquita, and just analyzing that, no, where they are, and based on that, the permanent need to evaluate and take decisions. So it's a permanent option that we are open to, and we will define it if it's necessary.
Absolutely. Forrest, I know we talked really quickly about it before our time ended the first time, about that DNA collection, and I was kind of curious. Can you describe exactly like what that looks like? As you've heard, we can obviously have sea pods, we can listen to vaquita, we can visually see them, which we know is incredibly hard to do. How easy or how hard is it to collect this DNA that's floating around? Like, are we talking poop? Are we talking skin? Or is it like, what's happening there?
Yeah, I will speak to it a little, and then Barb, please feel free to chime in because I know you have been involved as well. But Tanya, the Mexican scientist that has been leading those efforts, more or less, to try to simplify it, took techniques that have been developed with other cetaceans that she learned in her postdoc and brought it to vaquita. And it involves taking a water sample and then filtering it through special methodologies, and then taking that sample back to the lab and identifying and looking for presence or absence of vaquita DNA. And so it can be very, very helpful in a situation like this, where you can't easily go, and where Barb and other scientists are wondering, are they in other places? And so we see eDNA, this technique, as a way of potentially looking for them in harder to reach areas. For instance, maybe the Mexican Navy could go and collect these samples for us in other parts of the bay. So really advanced technology that has now been applied for vaquita. And we're really, I just talked to Tanya about a week and a half ago, and she has a lot of samples and is ready to really, really dive deep into the analysis and results. So pretty cool application of the technology. I don't know, Barb, if you want to add anything else.
No, I'll just say that, yeah, it would be a really exciting technique to use in the far northern Gulf, the area up by El Golfo de Santa Clara, where we haven't been able to do much research. And I guess another really exciting aspect is that it's a real opportunity for citizen science and for getting the fishers themselves involved in collecting the data and participating in, gathering the evidence that's needed to guide sustainable fishing in the Northern Gulf. And while I have the floor, I just wanted to say, in terms of, hope, this new administration that Valder is part of, it's been rough going in the US, but Mexico sort of has the dream team. It's the most hopeful that I've been with a government, and getting the local fishermen to the table is such a critical thing that just hasn't happened before. And so I'm more hopeful than I've been in a long time. And I think that, getting all of these bits and pieces of data all working towards the same goal, and really, the thing about extending the blocks is that some of the alternative fishing gear would also get tangled in those blocks. And so, we're really looking for a way for the local people to be able to continue to make a living and put food on the table, and vaquita to prosper. And I think that this is a hopeful time for that.
Absolutely. Well, I think, Aiden, I'm going to pop over to you because I feel like, I don't know if I'm seeing, you've probably already seen this connection, but you have this amazing little boat thing that you've made. And I'm so sorry, I was trying to find the name of it. Is there a name for the floaty little boaty? Floaty boaty? Is that it? No, that's not it.
Yeah, well, we called it the, I can't remember if the abbreviation, but it's the RMS or HMS Maris Steidenstecker.
Okay.
I don't know the technical term for the actual vehicle itself.
Boaty boaty.
Yeah, I think that's probably the most accurate possible term for it. Yeah.
The reason I was asking was I'm wondering too, is in connection with these eDNA samples, like another opportunity for your design is not only potentially what it was going to do of helping to get those nets in the sea pods, but maybe you can also collect samples of water. And oh my gosh, the meshing that's happening here is really cool. Yeah,
no, that's a really, really great idea. Definitely, I haven't thought about that personally, but I can imagine that, there's a lot of overlap with eDNA research and, the use of these types of vessels.
And I guess as I'm looking at this amazing group of researchers, scientists, and activists here, out of curiosity, I know we're waiting for the information to come from this last survey. I saw something in the chat that someone said November 7th, but I know Barb said the 28th, give or take, for that to come out. Do we already have plans for the next research to happen? I know with Forrest, we were waiting for that funding that you could start right away. But do we have any other plans for just continuing this in the ZTA? Are we looking to expand it out beyond the ZTA? If anyone knows or wants to speak to that.
Well, I guess I'll just speak for Gustavo. I mean, they have been doing continuous monitoring, acoustic monitoring in the ZTA, and I anticipate that they will continue doing that. It's really critical information, and the government will be consistent in funding that acoustic research. Months and year is analysis of the data that we already have, because this has been the biggest year since 2015. So, you know, we've got this mother lode of data that I think that's a really important thing. And I think, you know, jumping back out in the field before we have analyzed those data will probably not be the best use of people's time and money. That we really need to digest those data and then use what we learn to formulate what needs to happen next in terms of research. But I think the real important part is what Valder is talking about, is, you know, really getting to work on alternative gear and, you know, negotiating things with fishermen and getting going on that front. You know, we've done really well on the science of vaquita, but there's equally important research, or more important research, that has to go into how to fish effectively and sustainably in the Northern Gulf.
Well, that's, and Valder, if you want to speak to that, I guess I was just wondering, as you know, we're getting high praise for the work that the Mexican government is doing. Keep it up. So excited to see that happening. I'm curious, is there anything that anyone watching or listening or watching this later, is there anything that people can do to help the Mexican government? And maybe it's just, you know, sharing that information that there's work being done with local fishermen to come up with alternative fishing gear. Is there anything else that could be done, or that the Mexican government needs from people to say, yes, keep going? Can we help at all?
Well, there are the need for cooperation. It's there in different ways. The work that you do, I think it's very important to keep it this topic visibilized. And in terms of money and projects, we have been designing different projects for the Gulf of California region, for example. No, we are just waiting for the results of a project that we designed for the Environmental Framework Fund, the Biodiversity Framework Fund. And it's a project called Marine Prosperity for the Gulf of California. So we are trying to to increase the resources, the economic resources, to do more things in the region related to alternative projects. For example, regenerative aquaculture, the developing of alternative gears. These are projects that we have designed and that we are have been looking for more resources than the government have in different spaces. No, so of course this requires an important amount of money that we are looking for, and that we are preparing from the money that the government has, and also from other funds. But of course, I think the most important thing that the people that is listening to us can do is to keep insisting in the need for all of us to get together, to talk together, and to have a common vision. And I think that helps us as a government to attend our compromises and our interest in the related to the vaquita. I think that's the most important thing. And of course, if we are talking in terms of cooperation, international cooperation, our permanent call is always for all the countries, and specifically for those who are involved in the illegal traffic of totoaba, that we need to strengthen that kind of cooperation, because the efforts that the Mexican government, along with the scientists and with different organizations and with the fishing communities, will not have the same results if it's an isolated effort, right? So that will be my answer, Lauren. And for the people that is listening to us, keep insisting on this, so we can keep this visualized and work together as we have been doing.
Absolutely. And I know it's been a common comment this whole time is the fact that, number one, that Viva Vaquita as an organization exists that Tom started. We were trying to remember, Tom, how many years has this been happening for Vaquita? We're past 10 years now, I think.
Well, we started Viva Vaquita in 2009, and I think we had the first, as Aidan mentioned, I think the first Save the Vaquita Day was in 2011 or 12, something like that. So it's been well over 10 years now. I think it's around 12 years that we started the event. And of course, as you probably know, before COVID, it was primarily an in-person event where we had booths at different places in the United States, Canada, Mexico, and even overseas. And obviously, COVID in 2020 kind of put a damper on that. And since then, we've been focusing more on this virtual event, which at first kind of seemed to me like sort of a compromise, but now I realize it's actually probably getting the word out to more people. But having this hybrid situation where we have the virtual event as well as some in-person events, I think is really an effective strategy. And I'm pretty optimistic that more people than ever know about the vaquita's plight and are aware that they need to do something to help try to save the species.
Absolutely. Well, and I know after Aidan had told us earlier that there are 5 in-person events that the Musqueam organization is putting on. And out of curiosity, Aidan, do you know if your folks are keeping track of how many people they talk to? Do you ever have data points on that?
Yeah. We've been keeping track. As far as I know, we've been keeping track at every table
Nice.
over the years, and yeah, we're currently at over 20,000 individuals educated from those tables, which is
Nice
really
one.
exciting.
Awesome.
That's huge. Well,
Awesome.
congrats to you and your team. And that obviously doesn't include this year. So hopefully that's going to push them well over 1 million this year. But that's amazing contact points.
Yeah, no, it's really just kind of, I think that like the face-to-face is really helpful in addition to social media and events like this live stream. Just people walking around at an aquarium or something like that. Just they get to have a conversation with somebody about a species that they most likely haven't heard about, and it can really create a lasting impact. And yeah, so it's been really exciting just seeing all these tabling events kind of continue over the decade or so.
I found I had a student come up to me and they knew about Vaquita, but a bunch of other kids had overheard us talking about them and had said that they had never heard of Vaquita before. And I always think it's funny, and it's a good reminder for all of the people on this panel here and anyone watching. We're in we're in the floaty boaty about Vaquita. We're aware, but I do always forget how many people have never heard of these animals before, let alone the fact that there are so many left. And as Barb showed earlier, how fast that decline was. The 47% loss per year starting in, I think it was 2015. I have about 15 pages in front of me. I have it written down somewhere, but I'm curious for everyone here on this panel, is there anything that stood out to you as maybe the most positive thing you've seen in this time? So in that time of decline, I know we have these in-person and virtual get-togethers, the research that's been happening. Is there anything that stood out to you as like a pivotal part of connecting people to Vaquita? Is there like one thing or one phrase or I don't know, anything that kind of just stands out to you as like that worked really well?
Contribution of the younger folks. Aidan is a great example. I think, Aidan, you were like 12 years old when you first got involved in the Vaquita conservation effort, which is amazing. And I think back on when I was 12 years old, and I was passionate about animals too, but it really wasn't possible at the time back in the 1970s for me to make much of a contribution. But the world has changed, and there's a lot of ways that younger people in their teens can actually make a real contribution to conservation. And it's really exciting to see that. It's partly because of the technology we have available these days, but it's also partly due to the fact that there's a lot of youngsters out there who are, passionate about the environment and about conservation. And to me, I think that's one of the most hopeful and optimistic things that I see about the Vaquita conservation issue today, is just the fact that it's so much of it is driven by students, and not just college students, high school students, junior high school students, even elementary school students, making art for the Vaquita and sending it to government representatives. to me, it really helps keep me more optimistic about the future of the vaquita and other wildlife, to see all these young people, because they are the future. Let's face it. As we said before, people like me, I'm kind of old. I'm not going to be around for too much longer, probably. But the youngsters are the future, and seeing them take this issue to heart, I think, is really encouraging.
Absolutely. I'm looking through some of the comments that have been asked from this morning to now. And one of the questions that I was going to pose to the group here is, do we know if there's any specific areas that the vaquita are using for their calving? I know that they are pregnant, they are having babies. We're tracking them with the drones. Have we found a specific area that we know that's where they go to have their babies, or is that maybe not something that we know yet?
Well, I can tell you where we see them. I can't, of course, tell you where they're having calves where we haven't seen them.
Yeah.
I don't think that there is something like a calving ground. I mean, like for some species, they go to a specific place and to have their calves, or they're migratory. But vaquitas are not migratory. They sort of stay in the same place, and the area that we've seen the mothers with calves has been up in that sort of northwestern area of the ZTA, and just sort of outside the ZTA. And it seems to be a very consistent place for those individuals. And I have to say, in terms of things that I would hope people take as a take home from this, is that you really need to have faith in these animals. I mean, I can't tell you how many papers I've written or been part of one of the co-authors where we say vaquitas are going to go extinct next year or in the next couple of years. And they are amazing that they're still out there. I mean, it really is a miracle that they're still out there. We don't really even understand how they went from that amazing decline to surviving, even when there were lots of gillnets around. And so I think it's been a real lesson for conservation biologists and for people in general. And Jane Goodall put it very well that, if you give the animals a chance, they're probably going to come back. They're really resilient. And I think, having faith in the humans, young people, and the vaquita young people is, a really important thing to let people know that they really do have a chance. And, we just have to do everything we can to let them recover.
Yep.
Absolutely. Anyone want to add to that?
I second it.
Yes, I second everything that Barbara just said.
Yeah, I agree with everything that's been talked about, Tom and Barb. Thank you for bringing up Jane and her reasons for hope. I mean, they're just so key, and of course, the next generation. And that's part of what drives me as I'm a mother. And so you can't help but look at your work through that lens once you fill that role. And so it's been really impactful for me. One other thing I really wanted to bring up when you asked the question of what has been pivotal, and I really want to acknowledge Barb and her work to be forthright about the plight of the vaquita and the reality of the vaquita, because it has inspired this huge movement within our work to try to not let that happen again with any additional species. And so I think that although the vaquita CPR effort was disheartening, it did bring together an intense emotion and motivation from a large group of scientists and politicians and educators and governments to not let this happen again around the world. And that is a huge positive thing that has come out of these efforts. So I like to acknowledge the positivity of that situation. And again, just echo that I think she and Jane has said also the the rewilding, right? If we leave them alone and we keep it safe enough, that nature is pretty amazing at coming back again. So I echo all that as well. But thank you, Barb, for speaking so openly about all of this, because it has ignited a larger movement so that we don't let this happen again.
I think that's something we've talked about in the past. We, mentioned that there's 7 known species of porpoise, all of which face their own challenges where they are. And, we were kind of looking ahead a couple of years ago of which species is next, which one should we be preparing for? And as all of you have kind of said today, that we're doing this for everything, like all the research that's happening, the technology that's being developed, the work that people are doing not only directly benefits the vaquita, but all the other animals living in that habitat, in that environment, and in that space. I'm curious, for anyone who's watching who's maybe new to joining VIVA Vaquita, International Save the Vaquita Day, there was a question that came up earlier, which I was hoping maybe a couple of you might want to speak to, is about that genetic diversity, because I know a lot of us are used to hearing exactly as has been mentioned, if you have a couple of animals, a population won't survive. And exactly as Barb just said, have faith in the animals. And I know you have so much faith in them. And as you talk about them, I can see that in you, Barb, that you have this huge amount of trust in them as a species. But for anyone who's maybe joining us for the first time, could you speak a bit more about the genetic strength that vaquita seem to have?
Yeah, it's a weird kind of strength. So, but I think it again is such an important conservation lesson that there are species out there like vaquitas that basically live on islands, and the northern Gulf of California is sort of like the Galapagos in a marine sense. I mean, it's isolated and there are endemic species there, and because it's a small area, there aren't very many of them. I mean, it's not like, there's millions and millions of them, because it's a small area and they're endemic. And those animals, I think, when I started out as a conservation geneticist, I mean, we use this rule of thumb that you can't have less than 500 or else there'll be inbreeding depression, or you can't have less than 100 or there'll be inbreeding depression. And what we've been able to find out, looking at, now that we have these amazing genetic tools, is that, these island species, they're sort of the lucky winners. I mean, there probably were lots of cases where the species came to these islands and they did have inbreeding depression and they died out. But the ones that are there, they have had a lot of time to expose any genetic issues. And geneticists call it genetic load. So they've been naturally inbreeding for many, many generations. And, the ones that had the bad genes, they aren't there anymore. And so they're actually quite resilient to these problems of genetic inbreeding that are a big problem for species that have collapsed from very abundant species down to 10 individuals. And so when they did the simulations using the genetic data from vaquitas, and they took them down to 10 individuals, they still had a really high chance of recovery, even, with not having much genetic diversity, if you stopped killing them in gill nets. And so it is this real lesson that we have these tools that we can take a more nuanced approach to problems and understand which species are really going to have those problems and which species there are other things to worry about other than their genetics. And so, vaquita are amongst the lucky winners.
Yeah.
That's a cool way to put it. It's a super dark, again, we're having International Save the Vaquita Day and soon Save the Vaquita Week. And it is pretty serious, but it is fascinating that, as you say, we expected this animal to disappear. They are still here. And without those pressures, they could totally recover, which is amazing. And again, as Valder is describing with what the Mexican government is reinstating and doing and getting locals involved with who already were doing work, hoping that maybe when we see the results released next week and beyond, that we might be seeing some different stories and having a different angle that we're having our Vaquita talks about. I'm wondering if there's anything that anyone wants to add that maybe we haven't covered yet, a question I haven't asked, or if anything that you really feel you want to make sure we include in 2025's International Save the Vaquita Day. I'll open it up to anyone who has anything to share.
Well, from our part, just to make a call for everyone to keep talking about the vaquita, seeing the vaquita, looking for different ways to support the efforts. No, there are different types of efforts that are being done, and they all require all the support that they can achieve. One of the most important challenges, as Barbara and I were saying, is that we need to transit to different models of economic development in the region, which is something that is not exclusive from this region, and is related to the traditional ways of fishing in many parts of the world. So one of the most important things that I think that the international community can support is the knowledge, and all kinds of support that can lead to this transition. I believe that it's one of the most important things, and never lose hope. No, that there is information to have hope, and there are work that supports that hope. So never lose hope. Keep doing what you're doing, and an international call so that we remain supporting these efforts. And thank you, Lauren, for this invitation.
Well, I appreciate it, and way more hope. I know we were talking before we did this last week when we were getting set up for this of, I wonder what's going to be said. And even though, we don't have the specifics, I still feel so much hope coming from everyone and all the comments that have been coming in. Definitely a lot of hope there. So I want to thank you all. And I think we're going to add Julius into our panel as well. Anything to add here, Julius?
I really like hearing what everybody's been saying. That especially in these days when it's very easy, as Tom was saying, to become depressed from all the news that we're seeing about how the biosphere is suffering under our collective footprint, especially with certain large governments doing some very damaging things very recently. But at the same time, and there is good reason to hope. And as I was saying before, and as others are saying, we need to hold on to that. We need to keep focusing not just on the negatives, because not a lot of that's going to be thrown at us. I mean, news works well on reporting a negative stuff, but there's also positive out there, and it's the stuff that doesn't sell often as much in news. So we got to remind ourselves and keep talking to each other about the things that are hopeful, and self-care as well. We have to be very careful in order for us to be able to continue to fight for the vaquita and all of life on Earth. We need to be able to recharge ourselves enough. We need to be healthy enough to be able to continue doing this. So it can't be overstated how important it is for us to maintain our own health as much as possible in these days as well, so that we can help others. It's kind of like on an aircraft, you put on your own mask for air, oxygen mask first. In a sense, it's not being selfish. It's a matter of being able to remain functional. We have to do that. Look after each other and ourselves. It's easy to forget ourselves sometimes, but the vaquita need us. And part of what we have to do is also just kind of, as Barb was saying, have faith in them. They seem to be doing really well on their end. Now let's do what we can on our end.
Absolutely. Well, I want to thank our panel for giving us your time today from all over the world, being here, sharing your knowledge, sharing your activities, your projects. We are internally grateful, and hopefully next year when we get together again, we'll have even more amazing stories to share. And just thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lauren.
Thank you so much. Lovely meeting a bunch of you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, I think we're going to get to the closing words.
I think we'll start to close down our afternoon here, our morning. I don't know what time of day it is anymore. It's raining still. Thank you so much, everyone. Well, for anyone who's still watching us, or again, if you're watching us after the fact and connecting yourself to Vaquita, we are, again, grateful that you're spending this time. I know this is a 3.5-hour stream we've done so far. You can skip around to wherever you need to, but I do feel that this is probably the most hopeful Vaquita Day that we've had yet. And Tom, I know you're nodding along. It's still dark. It obviously is still heavy, what we're talking about here, but I love that the people involved are so hopeful, and I'll pass it to you for our kind of closing remarks here.
Okay, well, thanks, Lauren. Yeah, I mean, that's true, what you just said. And obviously, it's very difficult to conserve and protect threatened wildlife species without support from the upper levels of governments. And as we heard today, Mexico has really stepped up to the plate recently. With a new president who is much more supportive of environmental conservation. She understands climate change, and the Mexican government is really, doing a good job of putting those measures in place that are needed to give the vaquita a chance to survive. Here in the United States, where I live, unfortunately, as I think everybody knows, we have very much gone the other direction in a major, major way. We haven't gotten too political in most of the previous Save the Vaquita Day events, but this is a different time. Donald Trump was sworn in as president in January of this year, and he has done everything in these last 10 months in his power, which is unfortunately very great, to inhibit and even try to stop virtually any environmental conservation efforts and any effort to halt climate change. And it's having a huge impact, unfortunately, on a lot of wildlife and on the vaquita in particular. And we saw from his first administration how destructive and how damaging his efforts were. He's now at the stage of actually trying to weaken or even completely eliminate the Marine Mammal Protection Act and the Endangered Species Act. And so it's just very important that we all realize how critical it is to resist these efforts, to do what we can to stop him from damaging the environment in whatever time he has left as president, and hopefully to, in the future, to get someone in the office of president in the United States who will be supportive of environmental conservation efforts. So I just wanted to say that. Again, I mentioned earlier the special by Jane Goodall called Famous Last Words. If you have not watched this, I really, really encourage you to check it out. It is really, really inspiring. As Jane Goodall always is. And even though she's no longer with us here on this earth, I feel like she's up there watching us, guiding us, and continue to give us hope that there's still a lot that we can save, and the fight is still worth fighting, and we should keep our efforts up, and in fact, maybe redouble our efforts. So really appreciate that. Go check that out on Netflix. The vaquitas can't thank you themselves. Unfortunately, their thank yous are too high frequency for us to listen to, but VIVA Vaquita certainly is very appreciative of your efforts and your involvement today in this event. We really, really appreciate anything you can do to help, even the small things, as Julius mentioned, donating to organizations that are helping the vaquita. And just simple things like not getting a straw when you go out to some place that, gives you food and hands you a straw, or, using your wallet to purchase products that are environmentally sustainable and that are not damaging to the environment. So please keep up the good work on that. Remember Jane Goodall's words and don't lose hope. And I want to take this last opportunity to thank everybody who was involved in today's event, all the amazing speakers, people like Lauren and Julius, and in particular, our behind-the-scenes amazing tech guru, Marcus, who we could not possibly do this without his efforts and help. We appreciate all of your hard work to make this thing possible, as well as all the other folks who work behind the scenes to make this event, I think, very, very successful. And finally, if you live in California, don't forget to vote yes on Prop 50. So thanks again, have a good day, and appreciate all your help with everything.
Thank you so much, Tom, and thank you for organizing this all in the first place. This is a huge undertaking that's taken years and years, as you say, and grateful to all the work that you've put into this yourself. Thank you. Well, that's another Viva Vaquita International Save the Vaquita Day in the net. Hopefully not in the net. Get them out of the nets. Let's get those nets sorted out. What do you think, Marcus? What do you think, Julius?
Absolutely.
I think I'm very impressed that I found the right button for this camera at the first attempt after only the entire event is almost over. I want to thank also Christine behind the scenes, our producer, who's been talking to all our speakers, made sure that they all look and sound okay. And also the Marine Mammal Rescue community on Twitch, who has been helping us moderate this event as well, where we've had most of our viewers today. Thank you to the 15,000 people who have liked the stream on TikTok, and the hundreds and possibly thousands who have watched us through all the 8 channels that we've been streaming on today. So appreciative of everybody who has been watching this event and sharing it, supporting us in any way. And Lauren, I think it's customary that we end this event with Julius's artwork. We're going to show some unmoderated views without further commentary. But Julius, do you want to? I'm going to just point at your final artwork. Do you want to give us an idea of what you've done since we last saw you like a few minutes ago?
I've been painting a lot of representations of turbulent water and moving. This is the other thing here that actually I've been trying to portray here is that the world in which the vaquita lives is a different one in terms of sensory information than the one that we live in. Vaquita and many other cetaceans employ echolocation, right? And so they're able to well, do they actually? Is it echolocation? That's a question. They do. They? Yeah. Cetaceans do. Do vaquita use echolocation in the same way as other
tooth whales? Yes.
Yeah. In general, they do. Okay, right.
Yeah.
It's like me not knowing enough about the organisms that I'm illustrating. Anyway, for cetaceans, for toothed whales that use echolocation, their surroundings are more than just sort of the visual world that we would see as we go underwater, or we hear things and so on. But they also are able to sort of construct a model of what's around them using sound that is bounced back from objects around them. And so things like different, and I'm not sure to what extent they're actually sensitive to differences in water density and so on. But it's important to realize that they may or may not sort of see or echolocate objects underwater, such as nets, which allows them to more easily become entangled or to mix those up with other kinds of objects. And so what I'm trying to portray here in addition is that the world around the vaquita is more structured than maybe we would be able to give it recognition just based on viewing it with our eyes, which looks very homogeneous, but they can actually pick up a lot of other details. And it seems like in some cases, maybe the vaquita are getting better at spotting nets using various means. And perhaps part of the reason why they're still around is that they've become smart, so to speak, some of the individual, and are actually able to recognize indicators of nets around them and actually avoid those kinds of objects that are signaled.
I love that segue to talk about sustainable seafood again, because you can be just as smart, just like the vaquita can spot those nets in the water. Potentially other porpoises do as well. You can spot sustainable seafood. We mentioned it yesterday on Canvas and Currents, but camera 4, wherever you live, there's sustainable seafood programs. An international one is MSC's, the Marine Stewardship Council. They have a handy little logo. If you Google them, I think it's msc.org.
Yep.
And you can quite easily spot sustainable seafood just by looking for that logo in a supermarket. And I was saying to Julius, there's some companies these days that create their own logos and their own mysterious programs, but if there's absolutely nothing, no logo, no statement of sustainability on your seafood product, there's a good chance it's not being caught sustainably, because otherwise they will probably want to talk about it. So yeah, do that. That's always my number one conservation advice, since we're talking about marine animals. And Lauren, I'm going to give the last word to you before we switch to just showing Julius's artwork for some visual ASMR until we sign off in a few minutes.
I appreciate that. And yeah, as everyone's already said, I'm grateful for all the people that are involved in putting this on, the people that do the research. It's a massive effort. And even today, that was so many more people than I often picture being involved in this. And I'm sure there's so many organizations out there that we didn't get to talk to or about. So Google, search online if this is something that you're interested in. There are so many people out there who you can connect with. There's so much that you can do to help protect our planet. As Julius was saying before, there's just this one. It's a small marble in a giant sea of ocean galaxies. It's been a long podcast here, but we're grateful for all of you joining us on this amazing adventure. So thank you for your time. Thank you for being here, and good luck in your future endeavors on protecting this planet. And
join us next year.
Join us next year.
Let's hope that we can continue doing this for many more years.
Absolutely.
And to a time when they won't be necessary anymore. That's what I'm hoping for. The Vaquita do so well that, you know what, we can remain hopeful without any trepidation.
No trepidation. That's the goal. Save Vaquita, no trepidation. On behalf of myself and everyone, take care.